MIDDLEKAUFF! Baby, hey! What's up, everybody? Welcome. It is Thursday night in the non-Eastern time zones. Almost Friday in the East. And the 49ers just became the first team to win a division in the NFL this year. I'm Guy. That's John. If you are watching on YouTube, great. It's awesome. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. We appreciate it. If you're listening to the podcast. Shout out to you multitasking. We appreciate your support.
NFC Division West champions on December 15th. They started 3-4 and lost to the Chiefs 75-10. They were 3-4 guy and got beat 75-10. I know that's not the actual score, but that's what it felt like watching it. And they have not lost since. It does not feel that way. I had to do the math today. I pulled it up while the game was going on. I was like, didn't they start 2-3 or 3-4? Then I counted, and the Chiefs game that was actually like 44 to whatever it was. And then you're like, win. It just doesn't feel that way. And you add it up 7 straight, and you're like 3-4, 7 straight. That's 10-4. Yeah. Does it feel like 7 straight wins to you?
No. A lot's happened in the course of those 7 straight wins. Yeah. Debo almost died on the field. Jimmy Garoppolo's season ended. Hold on, let me turn this music off. God damn it.
Kinlaw, we haven't seen since, but he's scheduled to come back. I saw Armstead
returned. That's right.
Armstead did tell Sherman on the field today that Kinlaw will be back next week. So everyone's been waiting. Kinlaw, he hasn't disappeared yet. He's gonna get a Conquer of the West T-shirt too.
Yeah, well, I mean, they could use him at this rate. 11:51 in Virginia Beach PM. Hello.
Seattle lost a D tackle, a big boy.
Yeah,
early.
Is that the first series of the game?
Yeah, it looked like his ankle went the wrong way, didn't it?
I didn't see the replay.
Replayed it looked like it hurt.
On the stream, Brock was also hurt. Oh yeah, that's right. We were one rib away from Josh Johnson. We had the Baker Mayfield got released story for like 48 hours, right? That was another.
Didn't he win a game, guy?
I think today is the 1 week anniversary, actually, of the game that Baker won against.
Oh yeah, it was Thursday night. Yeah. Who'd they play?
Last Thursday. Oh, the Raiders.
Raiders, yeah.
Yeah, the Raiders.
That's the low blow, but can't help ourselves.
We're just, recounting the last month. Like October 23rd was the loss. You're right, 75-10. 44-23 was the final score of the Chiefs game. The last 49ers loss. As the weeks have passed, it has felt much closer to 75-10 than 44-23.
Let me tell you.
I mean, they traded for Christian McCaffrey. I know that didn't happen after the Chiefs game, but that's
what did, right?
Well, yeah, it did happen after the Chiefs game.
They have not lost since Christian joined the team.
Yeah, good point.
That 44-22, 23 is one of the most deceiving scores in the history of the league, don't you think?
Yeah, because it was worse.
Worse. It honestly felt like 58-7.
Yeah. The good thing about it, I think, if you want to look at a glass half full.
Woke them up.
Well, woke them up. And I just think Super Bowl week, it's going to be hard for the Chiefs to focus for the rematch after they beat the Niners 44-23 the last time.
I think it's going to be a little harder for the Chiefs to meet the Niners in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah. Purdy, Josh Allen, is that what the networks have been dying for?
I just think, basically, if they're the 2 seed, it's going to go Burrow in the second round and then Josh Allen in the third. Those are tough 2 games. They haven't beat the Bengals in 3 times and the Bills in Buffalo in a thunder snowstorm.
Let's get our facts right. Christian joined the team 2 days before the Chiefs game.
He did?
McCaffrey had 8 carries in the game, yeah.
Okay. I don't count that one. Then I just say he joined for they played the Rams the next week?
They play the Rams the next week, yeah.
That's what I
could not do what Baker Mayfield did, albeit he played the Chiefs and Baker played the Raiders.
True. I count Christian's arrival the Rams week.
Yeah. I like that. You're like, it's like
you get an onboarding time, don't you?
You do get on board, yeah. You get to ramp up.
I don't hold you accountable for a sales call on your 3rd day at the office. right?
No, but I mean, if you make a sale, you do get credit for that.
True.
John, let's tell the people that we are brought to you by our friends at Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka. It is numero uno. Wherever you may be, walking it, bellying up to a bar, whether you are drinking at home, just chilling, whether you are hosting, whether you are going to somebody's house, Tito's Handmade Vodka this holiday season.
If I was still in high school, I would fill this thing up with Tito's. Little Gatorade bottle. You would roll this into a high school basketball game or a college basketball game, little Tito's. Have Tito's on us this weekend. Not necessarily on us. You have to purchase it, but Tito's, just Tito soda. Have a espresso martini if you need a little pick-me-up. You just can never go wrong with our friends at Tito's. It's the greatest vodka, I'd say, ever invented. It's the #1 vodka in America. No big deal. And Tito Beverage just started with the dream, and he's turned it into a behemoth company that we all love, and we all, I'd say, share in our love together when we enjoy cocktails. And we share them over social media. So when you have some over the holidays, whether it's at Hanukkah, whether it's Christmas Eve, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Kwanzaa, New Year's, we got a lot of drinking holidays right around the corner. Tag us, show us on the social media streets. I know you guys, hell, we were getting tagged at night, people watching the game. Yeah. Keep it coming. We love them.
I dipped down to old Carmel on Wednesday night for the night, John, and went to my favorite spot there.
What'd you guys do? A little
Hog's Breath. Went to dinner at Hog's Breath Inn, which is Clint Eastwood's old spot. And it's got anyone going to Carmel. I get this all the time. I know you get this. People are like, hey, I'm coming to a Niner game. Where should I go in Santa Clara? And I'm always like, I don't know, man. But if you want to dip down to Carmel, go to Hog's Breath. Go weave your way to the back, into the back bar. It's like a little shed in the back. They got that's the #1 spot.
Do they know you?
Me? No.
Yeah.
But Tito's and soda back there with a lime right by the fire. Highly recommend. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof. Crafted to be savored responsibly. Also brought to you by BBZ, as it's known in the streets. ButcherBox.com/ham. ButcherBox.com/ham right now. Use the code ham when you go to ButcherBox.com/ham. So you got a double ham, and you get free ground beef for life in every order.
Yep, go to ButcherBox.com right now, ButcherBox.com/ham, and curate your own box. They got chicken, they got ribs, they got steaks, and when you do it and use the promo code HAM at checkout, you get free ground beef for life. Free ground beef for life. You'll be eating tacos, you'll be making cheeseburgers for the entire block for the rest of your life. I mean, you will be the toast of the town. Everyone will be bringing Tito's over to your house, because you'll have all the meat, and you'll be slanging burgers, slanging beef tacos, slanging some bean and cheese burritos, but you'll be throwing meat in there. You'll have it all.
Like John said, you can get the curated box. You can make your own box, plus recipe inspiration, guide, all kinds of stuff. Free shipping in the continental U.S. No surprise fees. The best meat. It's all there. ButcherBox.com/ham and the code ham. For a limited time, our listeners get free ground beef for life, plus $10 off your first order. ButcherBox.com/ham, code ham, $10 off your first order. Ground beef for life in the membership. ButcherBox.com/ham, code ham.
Can I read you this tweet by our friend John Dickinson, who I think is in the press conference right now with old Kyle Shanahan?
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan said that Brock Purdy didn't throw a pass all week since Sunday until a few at the hotel this morning at walkthrough.
What?
Yeah. So now, granted, I mean, the weekends, right? You just play on Thursday, so it's an abbreviated week, but still, that he was never not going to play, but he did not throw any passes for whatever the hell they were doing on Monday, Tuesday, and even probably Wednesday before they flew, right? That's not nothing.
Yeah, it's not nothing. You rust, right?
Yeah. It's not like you're throwing a full bullpen sesh, but I would imagine if you just ask the Aaron Rodgers and the Tom Bradys and the guys that have been playing for a long time, Thursday night game, they're like, yeah, usually on Tuesday, on the Thursday game, we get a half practice. I just keep my arm loose, right?
Right.
You just Mr. Irrelevant.
Short week in Seattle, which it didn't felt like Seattle on Thursday night, partly because of the way the game went, but I saw a couple shots, looked like a ton of Niner fans there.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible, John.
Do you think that last week's loss by Seattle took a little wind out of the sails of the 12s?
Yeah, John, they gave up 30 points to the Panthers at home.
Because tonight, if they had won that game, would have been a lot bigger, obviously, for them, because they would have had a chance to take over the league.
How could you not be watching Seattle over the last month and realize, all right, I think we're turning back into a pumpkin. Like what we're supposed to be, we're becoming, right? They're not very good. Like I texted a buddy of mine who played for the Seahawks this morning, and I said, "How we feeling?" And he said, "Like the Seahawks are about to get their cheeks clapped." I was like, "Oh, so you think they suck?" He's like, "Yeah."
Well, the Niners, it's 7-0 through the first couple drives, but as you text me, they're better at basically, it felt like every position. It felt like a huge mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
But like right around the corner was halftime, and the score was 7-3. So you're like, yeah, I mean, I've seen this dog and pony show before. You can quote unquote outplay someone. Obviously, the division's on the line, 7-3, and all of a sudden you're like, you go to halftime, some weird shit happens, and this game's a little too close for what I've been watching. And then the fumble, the moment the fumble scoop that led to the Christian McCaffrey touchdown, I don't want to say it felt like the NFC West was over at that moment, but it kind of did a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it was like, does Seattle have 15 points in them tonight? It's 14-3, and it's like, I don't know.
Well, they weren't about to stop slowing down the 49ers pass rush, which they didn't. That to me was the most obvious thing, right? When the game started, they could not block the 49ers. Couldn't do it.
No.
Could not do it. And it wasn't sacks necessarily. It was multiple balls got tipped as Geno was throwing it. The play that DK Metcalf got called for the offensive PI when he grabbed Mooney Ward and pulled him down but made the catch. Bosa was about as close to a strip sack without getting a strip sack as you could possibly be. Bosa, shout out to, is it Charles Cross, the right tackle?
Yeah.
I think he gets half a sack for the one that Bosa, when he jumped on Geno with like one arm through Cross and one arm around Geno Smith.
You know what's crazy? I think he's been one of the better rookies of the season. Like, I think John Schneider's gotten a lot of credit for drafting his 2 tackles. Like, those rookie guys, I think they've been pretty good throughout the year. You know?
Yeah, I mean, but there probably is a ceiling on your team if you're starting 2 rookie tackles, and then you play in this game and you have to win this game, and then you get behind. The Niners basically they pass rushed like they were up 14 points the whole game.
You know what's weird is I usually watch Thursday night very negatively, like I love Herb Street. Like, I would like to hang out with him. I'd like to play golf with him. I'd like to have some beers and like bullshit with him. I really don't enjoy him that much with the whole experience. But tonight I was just, I don't know. I didn't really they didn't get in my way. I just, the game was happening. I was more just locked in on like Niners Seattle. And I thought Herb Street said his most insightful thing this entire season when he's like, it's probably halfway through the second half. He's like, Bosa's figured this guy out and he's got no chance.
Yeah.
And Nick was like a master of his craft that was just kind of figuring him out. Obviously, you have less prep time, rookie, so you don't have a long book on the guy. And by the second half, like inside, outside, Charles Cross, like, what the fuck is going on here? This is not, I don't even know where, I think he's Mississippi State, actually. But he had no chance. And then they started kind of helping him out. But then like Ebicam and fucking Armstead would come from the other side, and they'd be twisting and stunning, and it was a wrap. It was a wrap. And then even if you complete a ball, and usually it's somewhat of a dump off, Greenlaw and Fred Warner, again, it's not quite as violent, and they're not Willis and Bowman in their prime. I mean, those two are like, I mean, I didn't watch like Mike Singletary in his prime. I watched a little Ray Lewis. Like they were Hall of Fame, peak Hall of Famer levels in their prime. The next tier down, which is an incredible tier, it's kind of where I view those guys are, and they're kicking ass and taking names. You agree? Like, they're not. I don't put that combo.
Greenlaw and Fred Warner, or Bowman and.
I'm talking Greenlaw and Fred Warner.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put Willis and I'd put Willis and Bowman when they're both in their peaks together better. Yeah. They just felt a little quick twitch faster, probably a little more violent. And again, these guys are violent. But and I'm not trying to diminish what my point is. Like,
but those guys were whether they have Hall of Fame careers.
It's like football heaven of linebacking players.
Those guys are Hall of Fame level players, I think. I mean, Willis,
yeah,
and
well,
Bowman
Willis might get in.
Yeah. So I think Yeah,
they're in that little mode though. Like the two of them together are just they make every tackle and they just crush guys.
I just think
Greenlaw probably consistently hits harder than Fred.
Well, Greenlaw forced the fumble today. Greenlaw had multiple big hits.
Yeah,
in the game,
monster.
And he's not even. He turns 26, I think, in May, so he's just in his prime. The 49ers are the first team to win their division in the NFL this year. There's only one other team in the league that has clinched a playoff spot, the Philadelphia Eagles. Those are the only two. And obviously, this is somewhat dependent on your division, but they've
aided by the second best team, 7-7 now.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, but they've dominated their division. They've beat everybody's. They've what did I say? Clap those cheeks or whatever that I said earlier in the division. They swept Seattle for the first time since 2011. They won 7 straight games. They did it with Brock Purdy. They did it with Debo hurt. They did it on a short week in Seattle.
Honestly, guy destroyed Seattle this year.
And it
was
destroyed Seattle, absolutely. And both games they've played were shorthanded because, shorthanded in the sense that, like, Trey got hurt in the first game. Both, it's not like both games, everything's gone perfect.
Thursday road game, that's a huge advantage for the home team in December.
Exactly. It's just wild to me, for as stressful as at times their season has been for them, how easily it just feels they just won their division and punched a playoff ticket.
Well, we talked about this last year. The biggest difference to me this year than last year, they went 2-4 in their division. Seattle swept them. They won the 2 Rams game, and Arizona swept them. And one of the Arizona games felt like a huge kick in the dick because it was Colt McCoy, and he destroyed them.
Yeah.
Well, think about this year. They're not just 5-0 in the division. They fucking dominated. I forget the Rams score, but like when I was being sarcastic about the Chiefs, if you said, what did they beat the Cardinals in Mexico by? I'd be like, 47-10. That was an ass kicking. They destroyed the Rams, and obviously they destroyed Seattle. So in their 5 games, they're not just, to me, it's like 5-0 in the division. You could win every game by 1 point, and you'd be like, hell yeah. They have killed these teams. Now, the Rams are limping. You do what you're supposed to do, but we've seen them beat the Rams when they were a Super Bowl team, right? And Seattle, to me, Seattle feels like Seattle could have been a 3-win team or could have been a 10-win team. Like, I take them seriously. And I'd say every Niner fan does. You just do. They feel like the type division rival where you just know, like, get ready for a game, regardless what team's good or bad. And the Niners shoved them around this year big time. And it might be a little bit, like you said, because the front dominated them and their advantages, the defensive line, they have young players up front. It might just be as simple as, like, tonight they were kind of running on fumes. The Niners fucking exposed them in terms of ran the ball right down their throat, a lot like it happened to them last week. And maybe just Seattle overall. I mean, let's face it, like, to me, they're a lot like the Giants. They have an impressive 7-7. Most people pick them, including myself, to be like a team drafting in the top 5. They have had a
which they are
year. Yeah, exactly.
Just Denver's pick.
Do you know Denver's record?
3 wins,
3-10. When you say it out loud, it sounds really bad. You're like 3-10.
We talked about this the other day, John, and it's funny. You look at the box score, 21-13 tonight does not tell the story, but they just blew out Tampa, 35-7. The week before that, they blew out Miami, 33-17. The week before that wasn't a blowout, felt kind of sketchy, but they did beat the Saints by 13 points. The week before that, they beat the Cardinals in Mexico City by 28, 38-10. Week before that was the Charger game. Week before that, they blew out the Rams. So, and again, this is a little hard to categorize because the Saints game was at risk for sure. That game was at risk at times. But basically, since the Chiefs game, you could argue, had 6 blowout wins, at minimum 5 blowout wins, probably. It's pretty incredible. They played this week, Thursday, obviously, so they are a game ahead. They've played more games. They've played 14 games because the 49ers are 10-4. Buffalo's played 13. The Eagles have played 13, and the Cowboys have played 13. But those are the 4 teams in the league: Cowboys, Eagles, Niners, and Bills, with a point differential over 120 points. In fact, Kansas City's only 86, plus 86. The Niners are plus 128. The Cowboys are plus 131. The Bills are plus 132, and the Eagles are plus 138. And again, those teams have played one less game, so that number can jump again. But at worst, they'll probably no one's really close to them. So even after this weekend, the Niners will have the probably the fourth best point differential in the league at worst.
Well, here's what I know. If they're not able to catch Minnesota, if they're just able to keep that cushion, I think, assuming that that's the second round game, the Niners and Minnesota win that first round, the Niners might be favored in that game on the road. I mean, the Lions just were favored at home, and they were 5-7 against a 10-3 team. Would it shock you if it was like Niners -1?
No. Because what are people if you just approach it from what is the public going to do when they have a chance to bet?
Hammer the Niners.
I don't know if you saw, this guy sent me his bet slip tonight, Canadian dollars, but he bet $70 American dollars to win 7,000. No, it was 36 American to win 7,000. He had Kittle over 45 receiving yards, Kittle 2 touchdowns, Juice a touchdown anytime. He needed a use check touchdown tonight, didn't get it. And there was a play, the all 22 will show. There was a play where Juice was wide ass open today on the backside, and Purdy threw it into the flat to the right to Ayuk. Haberman live tape study, because Amazon doesn't let me watch the game broadcast on 2 screens, so I had to go, the all 22 broadcast. I didn't hate it. It was good.
It's not bad. It gives you some good angles, doesn't it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's good analytics. Like, there was some. I pulled the defensive number we'll use in the show, but
hashtag streaming.
They've won the NFC on December 15th.
West.
NFC West, thank you. They won the NFC West on December 15th.
I do think it's fair to say they are the second best team right now in the NFC. I think the Eagles have earned it, like start to finish. They're the best team. They're going to have home field advantage. But I think the Niners, like, we all agree they're better than Minnesota. And the only team is the Cowboys, who I think are also better than Minnesota. But we saw that. Now, I think the Cowboys are better than last year. But, like, one of their disadvantages is, like, Dak is not some mobile quarterback at this point. Like, after the injury, he's really much more like a pocket quarterback. And we saw how that went last year against the Niners. Like, Jalen Hurts is the type guy that the Niners, he's giving everyone problems. I mean, he's going to win the MVP more than likely. But, like, when Jimmy went down and Purdy played that game 2 weeks ago, I was one of the first guys. Like, my first take was, kind of sucks. Probably can't make the Super Bowl. Can't win the NFC. I take that back. I do believe, like, they got a chance in all these games in the playoffs. Like, I'm not going into the playoffs. I had no faith last year. I thought they could beat the Cowboys. And not in a million fucking years I think we're going to win the Packer game. I mean, hell, throughout that Packer game, I never thought they were going to win it. But I'm going to go into games. Obviously, they're going to be favored. I mean, they got a home playoff game. And then depending on how the seeding shakes out, like, kind of expect this team to be in the NFC Championship game, guy. That's where I'm at now. Like, then it's on the road at Philly. If they're a 16-1 team and they just beat the shit out of whoever in the second round, they're clearly going to be good. Who knows? Maybe Cowboys upset them and you get fucking host the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. And then the Niners are favored.
Right.
But my point is, like, this team can compete to win the NFC in a week and a half. I think most people, we were all kind of shell-shocked once Brock Purdy, 7th rounder, comes in, but they not only haven't skipped a beat, it's felt like they've gotten closer together. It's like they rallied.
So, yeah, I agree with that. It absolutely feels like that. I do think there was a time when we watched their defense and went, yeah, they're ranked number 1, but are they? To me, now they actually look like that level of defense, don't they? Do you agree with that? Like, I mean, we can talk about their defense. You want to talk about Purdy's night for a second?
Wherever you want to go.
Well, because I think that with backup quarterbacks.
Well, because we knew they have a defense that could win the Super Bowl, right? No one argued that. The reason I was like, they got no chance in the playoffs. Like, they got to pick 266, Mr. Irrelevant. Like, that doesn't happen.
No.
And someone, I think, tweeted at me and you today, or might have just tweeted at me. He's like, there's a chance that every quarterback in the AFC in the playoffs is going to be a first rounder, right? Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, Lamar, you go through it, and they're not going to be one quarterback in the NFC that's a first rounder.
Well, we talked about the NFC one the other day in the final. Oh, he said in the playoffs. We just said the final.
In the playoffs.
Today. That's incredible.
The playoffs, guy.
Yeah.
Now, if the Giants make it, Daniel Jones would be, but if he didn't, Heineke, Purdy, Geno,
Dak.
obviously Dak, Cousins, Jalen,
Brady.
Tom. Yeah. Or PJ Washington or whatever the fucking guy's name is from the Carolina Panthers. They're not dead
Goff
yet.
makes it? What if Detroit makes it?
Well, then yeah, he would be the
That'd
outlier.
be pretty ironic. But I think with backup quarterbacks, my default is you have to play a lot of games well before we're like, okay, maybe you are something better than we initially thought. And there's still the body of work on Brock is small, but there's so many signs that he might actually just be a good player. And I think the flip side of, well, we want to see you do it over and over again is, who's to say in 3 weeks he's not a better player than he is today? I think sometimes when a backup, basically it's overexposure, right? A backup can get overexposed. Like you played so much that we all kind of figured you out. And who knows?
It's usually also limited physical skills. I would say they tend to have like not as strong of an arm. They tend to be just kind of average physical specimens relative to the starter.
And over a period of time that you regress to the mean when
you think about some of the better backups like Teddy Bridgewater. I think Foles is a good example over the time he's had to play more. His arm isn't great, even though he can throw it far. I just think they tend to be Brock Purdy physically, like have some limitations, right? They usually actually former really good players that become backups tend to be guys that actually overachieved. Like, damn, this guy carved out a long career as a backup, right? Like Nick Mullins is going to be in the league. You're going to look at Gardner Minshew. These guys have 7, 8, 9-year careers. So for 7, 8 of those years, they're the backup quarterback somewhere. And you go, that guy got every ounce of talent out of him. Think about Gardner Minshew as the backup quarterback for Jalen, who went to Alabama, Oklahoma, beat out fucking Carson Wentz, and is taking this team to the playoffs back. Like Jalen has physical characteristics, right?
Right.
Or, Colt McCoy, Kyler Murray. This guy's Bo Jackson fucking can run a 4.040 and can throw it 95 yards, like has all these skills. Even Gino, when you watch him, like you can see he's got physical skills. He's big, he's thick, he's got a big arm. Like, you can see why that guy, you're going to look up Geno Smith's going to play in the league for what, 14 years?
Likable, right? Good teammate, smart guy, all that stuff.
I found myself I'm not rooting against Geno Smith. I don't like Seattle. I appreciate what he stands for.
No, but he's not playing with a full deck there.
Purdy's also really, I would say, even smaller than most quarterbacks. He looks small.
He started the game 11 of 11, hit his first 11 passes. Okay,
a lot of dump downs,
finished,
right?
Yeah, which means he finished 6 of 15 the rest of the game, counting the Ayuk drop. So could have been
hit him in the breadbasket.
7 of 15. Still, that's under 50%. But 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Again, this week threw a ball that definitely could have been picked, but maybe high velocity football. Not like Kaepernick, hard to intercept that ball, John. But I the thing to me that really stands out. Well, why don't you start? You former NFL scout.
I just think the one thing he has going for him that the other thing that stands out, I would say, when non-starters play, especially early, like their first couple starts, that is reason why they usually just get, washed out. They look very jittery. It looks like everything is going 90 miles an hour. And hell, this happens to some starters, right? It happened to Zach Wilson. I think some people might say Trey had some of that. It just happens to young players, just young players in general, even good ones, right? That it just looks like hectic out there for him. He does feel very, very calm, like not freaking out. On the one touchdown to Kittle, he did like 3 different, he went right, over the middle, and then look left. And again, Seattle's not exactly throwing Cliff Averill, Cam Chancellor blitzing. I mean, their defense is not getting crazy pressure on them, but it's still the NFL and it's still a short week. And this would have been the game where it's just, a little overwhelmed, can't hear that well. I mean, even Trent Williams had a jumped off sides. Like it's loud. It would be understandable. I never really thought tonight, guy, one time it crossed my mind. He made a bad pass that Diggs easily could have picked, but never thought like he looks jittery and just like overwhelmed. And to me, that's one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, beside his accuracy, because he is pretty accurate, not just from within the pocket, but on the move. Why I think Kyle, like, this guy can just fucking handle my offense and is not free. It'd be human nature. Like, whether you watch fucking movies on the Navy SEALs or in the Mafia, and those are things that I love, or football, like when you get in tense situations for the first time, not the training, not what they tell you about when it actually happens, people freak out. You know, I can be a nervous Nancy, I guess, sometimes. Like I just need to take a deep breath. And just watching this guy, how calm he is, it's pretty fucking remarkable when you factor in what he took over, a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and two, just he's the last pick in the draft. It'd be one thing. It's like, he's cocky motherfucker, second round pick, believes in himself.
But there are second round picks who don't believe in themselves, right?
Well, I know. That's why you got to throw the pick out. But do you agree? Like, eye test, just carrying himself, honestly feels and I'm not saying he's better than Jimmy, even though he's making some plays that Jimmy can't make because he's quicker. He feels sometimes a little less erratic.
Well, I agree. I mean, first of all, he just fundamentally throws less flutter footballs. He throws more spirals.
Throws a beautiful ball.
Whatever that's worth. I was listening to yesterday. Somebody sent me. They're like, "Oh, Brady on his podcast. Let's go with Jim Gray."
It's a three-way. Isn't Larry on it too?
Larry's on it sometimes. Jim Gray just breaks in with ads all the time. I listened to that podcast. I'm like, I think we could do more ads.
Jim Gray. Tom doesn't read ads?
No, but like yesterday they had Tracy Morgan, Adam Sandler, and Bill Burr on in like it was just at the same time, all three of them.
It's the Manning cast?
Plus Tom, plus Jim Gray. And Jim, in the 20 minutes, interrupted those guys twice to do ads, like one for Kleenex. I don't know what.
Do you watch or listen to it?
No, it's just I listen to it. It's a Sirius XM, but you can listen to the podcast.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it was enjoyable. I was just curious what it was going to sound like. Tracy Morgan, Adam Sandler, Bill Burr. And they were talking, and Bill's like, Tom's like, the guy that I always wanted to beat was Peyton. I wanted to be just better than Peyton Manning. He goes, but like I watch Patrick Mahomes. I can't do what Patrick Mahomes does. Like, that's not the same. Like, I can't be better at what Patrick Mahomes does than Patrick Mahomes. Like, I don't even try. I don't play the same sport as Patrick Mahomes. Now, me and Manning, we played the same game. So I could try and be better than Peyton at Peyton's game, but I can't be better than Josh Allen.
I heard Tom say one time, it was actually one of the most insightful thing I've ever heard a player say. He's like, the most unique part about football? This is like 2 years ago. So he's like the greatest player of all time. He's like, I couldn't start in a high school game at the majority of positions. Think about that. Like I couldn't play at De La Salle at defensive end, right? I would get blocked.
Right.
I couldn't play corner in high school. He's like, that's what makes this game. Like Brock Purdy is, I think fits into what Tom, but he couldn't do anything else, right? Maybe Purdy could function, maybe take a handoff or something.
Slot receiver for Kyle.
Yeah.
But
you know what I mean? So it's like,
I do. So then Bill Burr was like, yeah, it's like if I try to do Adam Sandler's show or Tracy Morgan's show, I can't do that show. Like I'll see a guy who I think is really good at what they do, but I may not necessarily be funny the way they're funny. I can't do that. Bill Burr's like, the worst thing you can do, go up on stage after somebody kills it, but they're a little different than you, and then you try to do what they did, and he's like, it's just not going to work. You got to stick to your fundamentals, which of course Tom loved that. You got to stick to your fundamentals. And I say all that to say, like, I thought about that tonight watching Brock. He is so confident in the stuff that he is capable of that he's just really comfortable. And some guys I think are really confident in it, like Baker or Johnny Manziel came into the league, and it was like Johnny was trying to run away from people. You remember that? And he just couldn't get away from anybody. But here's Brock.
I'll never forget on a Thursday night game, they were playing Carolina, and he tried to take off, and Luke Kuechly caught him like within 3 steps. It was like, what, bro? What? Well,
so I thought about that, like when Brock came in, like, okay, he's a gunslinger. Well, does it work in this league? Well, multiple times, Kyle obviously had the confidence. They ran him on the must-have third down play. In the end zone, he throws the ball to Ray Lowe, whatever they have to punt. But getting out of the end zone when he had to peel out and run to the near side showed very good athleticism. And I just thought I don't know, man. He just looks like I don't know if you'd call him a great athlete by NFL standards, but I think he's definitely a great athlete by human being standards. And he's clearly just really fluid. Like he just feels like he knows.
He had a moment tonight where he juked out a pass rusher and kind of went to the side.
Yeah, I just think he just feels like he knows it. It wouldn't shock me if you said, Brock, roll right, 7 yards, off your back foot. How far can you throw the ball? And Brock was like, that's a 44-yard throw. I don't think he actually knows that, but I bet he feels that. Like he knows exactly. He's really well calibrated, maybe is the way to put it. I think he's really well calibrated.
I did not I didn't chart the game. It feels like Kyle calls more pass plays for him, doesn't it?
Well, it definitely. I mean, how about
like in the flow of a tighter game, he's more likely to call pass plays on early downs. Again, I didn't chart the game, but I'm watching it in the back of my head as I'm not thinking too deeply about it, but I'm like, I think Kyle calls the game differently for Purdy than he has his other quarterbacks, Jimmy, and the couple games of Trey the last 5 years. That's what it feels like, guy. Besides like when he's down or whatever with Jimmy. But I'm just saying, in the game, 7-0, he is not calling this game the same as with Jimmy Garoppolo. I would bet
the end of the half. The end of the half. Was it the Dolphins game where he moved the ball at like 2 minutes, 2-minute drill, end of the half? They pushed the ball. It was a little eye opening.
Did they tell the story tonight? Well, they had to. That last week, Purdy's family got over emotional before the game, and Bosa's mom. Were you listening to that part?
I didn't hear the part about Bosa's mom. I did hear the part about tears before the game.
So tears before the game, I think it like sets in to their parents, like our son is starting the game, and in their mind probably against Tom Brady, and like his dad was overwhelmed, and I think Bosa's mom might have been in the tunnel, or maybe they were in the family section, and she kind of consoled them, like kind of gave him a hug, like it's gonna be okay, but kind of like
she's like, I've been through this with 7 of my kids.
Think about that, like. All these baseball players are signing or whatever. To me, one of the coolest things always in baseball is whenever a guy gets called up and has his first hit.
Yeah.
Right. You have to agree, I'm sure. And that like 8 people, it's like his mom, his dad, his cousin, his brother, his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, but they're still friends, and like 3 other buddies. And they're all just going nuts. They have beers are flying. And then eventually like the mom's like in tears and the dad is overwhelmed. Can you imagine Brock Purdy? They weren't even traveling to games. Why would they? And he was the backup quarterback. I would have told them, hey, bro, I don't know if you've watched Jimmy's career. Play away. Play away. You fucking be there at Chicago. At any of these games, like your kid could come in. And then once they finally go and it hits them, and Bosa's like, hey, listen, my sons have made a combined $700 million in this league. Your son's going to be okay. Okay. But just the emotion.
Your son isn't chasing my son.
Think about that. Like, this guy's family was so overwhelmed with emotion starting a football game. I think that kind of represents his story. Like it's crazy. Like the Jimmy re-signing story was one of the most unique stories of the year in the NFL. Like that moment. I think this Purdy couple game stretch is how it looks. Obviously the stats are good. He's throwing touchdowns. He's accurate, but like the eye test, it's hard to argue. Like, you're not going to argue with a football person and be like, this is bullshit.
Right. Well, it doesn't match the story. The eye test doesn't match the story.
Because the story shouldn't be good, you're saying?
Well, it just, if you said, well, the Niners, Mr. Relevant's their quarterback, you'd be like,
they're fucked.
You'd be like, this guy I've been watching? It just, his family's crying, but he
doesn't play like his family's crying, yeah.
Steven on the stream says Purdy's family was crying because they were scared Kyle was going to run him up the middle. It's true. They had seen the last 2 quarterbacks have career-threatening injury. Well,
and Kyle told his family, don't worry, I'm about to throw it 35 times a game with your kid.
Don't worry. It's the McCaffreys that should be worried.
Don't worry, Purdy family. I'm going to let your kid throw for 3 or 4 touchdowns a game. That's my vision for him. I love him.
McCaffrey's the one who's going to touch the ball 33 times. So
if you thought I like Mac Jones, wait till you see me with Brock Purdy.
We know Kyle will overdraft a quarterback, so he can't claim that he liked him in the 5th round.
It's honestly it feels right that Kyle might have stumbled onto a quarterback, the last pick in the draft, short little white guy from Iowa State.
Right after he traded everything for a guy at the top of the draft. Which, we'll have a lot of time. I know we'll talk about kind of the big picture. Division-winning quarterbacks are hard to replace. Now, he hasn't been the quarterback all year long, but there's more regular season games. Could they be the 2 seed? There's playoff games. There's all of that. He gets harder to, I think you said this last week, and I agree with you. We've passed the point already, barring a complete crash and burn from Purdy this year, that it's just Trey's job on a silver platter like it was this past offseason. You said that last week, and you're right. And every week it gets harder for that. But how much harder is the question right now, right? How much harder is it going to get? How he plays is one aspect of it. There's a world where they lose in the first round of the playoffs, but Purdy looks incredible. And it's like, yeah, you're going to the offseason thinking about him as their quarterback. But what if they win a bunch of playoff games? What if they win multiple? How many playoff games? You said earlier you've changed your initial reaction, which was they can't win playoff games with this guy. How could you not change that opinion, right? In part because of the team, but I think part of it's like, one thing I said that I've had to kind of rethink a little was, I said they'll have a shot just because the recipe is the same with Purdy as it is with Jimmy. But maybe even the recipe's a hair different. Now, Kyle does kind of call the game. I would say the throws he calls, it's not like he's, taking the regulator off this thing. But, maybe you took cheese. If Jimmy is provolone, you put cheddar in. Like, it's just a little more flavorful. It's still the same ingredient, but it's got a little more flavor. I think everyone now has to be thinking about what the possibilities are for the postseason with this guy.
I mean, the 49ers quarterback on the aggregate are 23-7 and 66%.
23 touchdowns, 7 picks, 66%.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty solid starter. I mean, their guys headed toward, what did we say at the beginning of the year? Would you have signed up for 28-9, 30-10? Fuck yeah. We were hoping for, I would say, 20.
You talking about Trey's numbers or Jimmy's numbers?
I'm just saying, yeah, Trey, and then once Jimmy started, 25-8 would have been good. I mean, they are going to fly by that. Brock individually, now he could have easily thrown a couple picks that one got dropped and one got called back, but he is 6-2. Now, you could also argue some of the touchdowns. I mean, today Kittle did a lot after the catch. Kittle was like, "Hey guys, I could be." Did you hear him on the broadcast?
No, I don't think so. What did he say?
He said that, I'm sure you guys heard last week when Kyle called Bosa out and then Bosa delivered. He's like, "I got called out last night," and I said, "Well, Kyle, give me some targets," because he's like, "Where's your yak? What happened to your yak?" And he's like, "Okay, throw me the ball." And what did Kittle do tonight? He did try to run a couple guys over in the middle of the field, but when he caught the ball in space, he became a playmaker. And he honestly did the Kelsey, right? That's what avoid guys, juke them out. And nights like tonight where you're like, yeah, George Kittle's fucking elite. And that was pretty stupid in the open field. But part of it, and this is where you benefit, and it's a great landing spot for. We said this with Trey. Once Jimmy came back in, they're missing Deebo Samuel, who is a $60 million all-pro. And they still got Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, who is just, I don't give a shit what a guy drops balls in training camp. Give me that guy in big games over the middle.
They showed a stat early that I think he had basically 50% of his catches are first downs, and then he had 3 catches today. 2 of them were first downs.
I like Juwan Jennings. You know who I also like? I've come a long way. Ray. I fuck with Ray.
I hold my breath on every return, but yeah, I mean, he's been clutch for them.
How about the one, I think it was like 3rd and 8, where he threw it over the middle and he took it to, maybe it was like 3rd and 12. It was 3rd and long.
Was that the McGlinchey holding play?
No, this was the one. This is the one Ray got.
Oh,
he kind of caught it in the middle of the field and like took it toward the left side.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they've
got enough. I mean, the bottom line is
they got enough
defense with these skill guys, even down a skill guy. The question, and we can get to this, is, they're basically playing with one running back right now, McCaffrey.
By choice. They do have another guy who...
I don't know. Did Mason show any burst today, John?
Do you know what's crazy? Is the offensive line. You're like, well, they got Trent Williams, who's the Hall of Famer, and then they got these 2 guards and a center. No one knows. Their worst offensive lineman is the right tackle. Those 3 guys in the middle, you couldn't ask for. I mean, they were just consistently solid. You never hear from them. They just get the job done. Isn't that pretty crazy that it's clear at the end of the season that McGlinchey by far is their weak link? Center and 2 guards are fine. Trent's elite. Because that was a huge question. It's like, well, Burford and Banks, what's Brendel Small? They're completely fine. Every game's like, oh, McGlinchey, shit. They're like holding on 69. There it comes.
Yeah, you would have liked to. I mean, I guess they ran.
And honestly, tonight he was fine. But I think a lot of people thought coming into the year, and this is where I think he's excelling, because he really only has to look on the right side and he can see. I feel like the most pressure that Brock has got has come from that side, obviously. And he's been able, now some of it's been blitzing, and he's been able to kind of just roll out to his right. And he throws pretty well on the run to his right, clearly. He's comfortable doing that. He did that tonight. He did that last week. I would imagine he's been doing it a lot of his life. I was at the gym today. I didn't have the sound on, but I saw on like one of the big TVs, like Sports Center was doing something, and Matt Campbell was on. I mean, they were clearly talking about Brock Purdy, and that guy fucking obviously loves him.
Yeah.
I think I heard Bruce Feldman say that, I mean, that program, the Matt Campbell hype was created with Brock Purdy as his quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the interviewing for USC, should he get Ohio State, should be, you know, some of these teams should be interested.
Became like an NFL.
Yeah.
People at least talked about it that way. I mean, I think the other part of like, can you win playoff games with Brock is, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but just revisit the conference, right? The AFC is very different from a quarterback standpoint right now than the NFC is. Yeah. The AFC is the blue chippers for the most part.
You wouldn't like them as much. Like, they got to play the Bills in the second round. It'd be a different story. Right?
Yeah, it's like Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes.
Lamar's going to make it.
Lamar's going to make it.
Herbert probably will end up making it. You know what you wouldn't want no part of? And this is where the NFC is nice. Herbert might be the 7 seed. Would you want to play the 7 seed if Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are healthy?
Chiefs, Chargers?
And honestly, they've played the Chiefs pretty well over the years, right?
Yeah.
But it's outside. But I'm just saying, like, that's a tough. If the 7 seed is Justin Herbert, there's another thing. 7 seed's Daniel Jones. I'm like, okay, let's take a deep breath.
Which is what it is right now, right? So there's your NFC is Hurts, Cousins, Purdy, this version of Tom, Dak.
Well, would you rather play
team?
Would you rather play in the first round Belichick and the Patriots, but just their limited offense, and just but Belichick, or Justin Herbert?
Ooh, that's a good question. I bet
if you ask Andy Reid, he'd be like, "Well, I'd rather play the Patriots. They won't be able to score with us, right?"
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably the right pick, but it feels kind of crazy.
That's the thing with football, right? So you look at the bottom of the NFC, it's like, well, I guess we'll see Washington in a week, but Seattle, fucking the Niners would pay. What would Jed check would he cut right now to play Seattle in the first round? $5 million?
Just basically guarantee a second playoff game.
Yeah.
I mean, the NFC right now has 4 playoff teams in the playoff picture with a negative point differential, including Minnesota, who's the 2 seed, at a negative 1 point differential.
Well, you would rather play Heineke, you would rather play Daniel Jones, you would rather play Seattle, I think, than the Lions.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I'm not trying to act like,
and I don't think, and I just don't think the Lions are going to beat you either, because I've watched them enough to know they don't.
And you've played golf before,
and you've played golf before.
And we'll see if Jared Goff can go outside against the Jets. I mean, that's a good test this week,
right? The point ultimately is,
but this is the group we're talking about.
Yeah, why can't? Why not? Why not Brock?
Could Green Bay win 4 straight and end up 9-8? They play this week. They play the Rams. They play Miami. They play Minnesota, and they play the Lions. No, they've played the Bears twice. So they play. They play the Rams this week. That's a win. Then they play at Miami. I think I kind of like Green Bay, and then they finish Minnesota, Detroit at home. They're coming off a bye.
I'd prefer not to have to play that game, but
I'm just saying that's a team in the distance just to keep an eye on.
I think it's fair just to say that whole scenario we just built where there's no great quarterbacks changes a little bit if Aaron Rodgers ends up in the playoffs.
When if they've won 5 straight games to get in the playoffs,
and if they won 5 straight games, yeah.
I'm just saying, just keep an eye in the background on the Packers.
Kyle Shanahan's. Can it be not your best season, but your most impressive coaching job? We always like parsing that type of thing. It's his second best season. It's the second time he's won the division. the last time it took up until the end of the year. But to do it with 3 quarterbacks, to win a division with 3 quarterbacks is insane.
I think the 13-3 season is a season that most coaches have, like when they really become a star, right? They just have a huge season. They win a bunch of games. Maybe they go to an NFC Championship game. Obviously, he went to the Super Bowl and had a chance to win it. I think where you become a really good coach, and we've talked about this forever with Kyle specifically, it's about doing it over and over. Like part of just being a legend is you don't have to. Belichick didn't win the Super Bowl every year, but he went to like 15 AFC Championship games. So that meant every single year he's winning 12, 13 games. Every single year. It's like, well, he beat up on the NFC East or the AFC East. It's like, yeah, we also watched him play the Steelers every year and Peyton Manning and kick the shit out of them. So it's like, yeah, he did take advantage of the bad teams in his division, but he also played other good teams, and they typically won those games. And I think Kyle last year was tough, right? It was a roller coaster ride, but the result was worth the craziness of the season. And this year, I would say at 3-4, we were hard on him. A lot of fans were hard. It just felt like this is going to be crazy. Now, we didn't know the way the division was going to turn out to be with the injuries and everything, but are you really going to struggle to get to like 9 or 10 wins? Because that's what it felt like at 3-4, and you just got blown out by the Chiefs. You start doing the math. You're like, you're just going to go back and forth, win one, lose one, and be like, you could be 8-9 or you could be 10-7, but it's going to feel very similar. And then he won 7 fucking straight games. And I think, and clearly he played a big role in this, I would say a monumental moment in his 49er tenure and just his career as the boss. The McCaffrey trade was a swing move for him in his career as a 49er.
Yeah.
And I when that happened, I thought it was fucking pretty nuts. I bet if you turn on the podcast, I thought it was an overpay. But clearly he's played a huge role. And I don't know. Are they a playoff team without him? Probably still, yeah. But it's that move, which I believe to my core, and they'll never admit it unless you know them personally. They tell you the truth. That's Kyle. I mean, the second, third, fourth. And I mean, that's a coach thing. And obviously he's known the family. I'm not saying that John and those guys wouldn't want him to. He's an unreal player, but that move is looked pretty good. And clearly he's using it like that was his move, right?
Yep.
And that was they needed something right around that time, right? Because I guess they were 3-3 going to Kansas City, but they were kind of holding on tight to the rope.
They just lost to Atlanta.
Yeah, something was off. They needed a little jolt. Isn't that the thing like baseball players talk about during the trading deadline? When you like add a guy, it's like, oh, they believe in us. And I'm not saying that like Fred Warner or Nick Bosa needed that, but can you imagine being in that locker room and be like, fuck, we just had Christian McCaffrey at 3-3? That's a pretty monumental move just in general in the NFL anytime you make a trade like that. And look at the Rams last year when they got Von Miller, but like got Christian McCaffrey. Like Von Miller, very, very famous player. And Von was obviously more accomplished. He'd been a Super Bowl MVP, but just in terms of like fame and stardom and just like this guy can come in and help us. And they've never really looked back. And it feels like I don't have his touchdown count, but if you had to say MIDDLEKAUFF, how many touchdowns he scores tonight? 9? I mean, seriously.
What do you have tonight? 1. So he has 1, 2, 3 receiving, 1, 2, 3, 4 rushing.
That's 7. He's thrown 1. That's 8.
Thrown 1. That's 8. So
I was close.
Yeah, good guess. I thought your number was too high when you said it. They put.
Do you agree? Was that a swing moment?
I think in multiple ways, right? Like if in the future we'll see Christian, from a health standpoint, you did get a superstar level player. And I think part of the question was obviously by far the biggest question with him is health. But I think, I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I think it's pretty incredible that on this team with superstars, he stepped right in. And if you just put him, if you said, all right, we're taking a team photo, all the superstars over here, even though McCaffrey's been on the team for, only half the season, he'd walk to where all the superstars stand, right?
Yeah.
And some people might think he's the biggest superstar of all of them. If you just think about like his football life to this point, obviously Bosa's have been great, but if you just said, all right, here's a photo, it's Debo, it's McCaffrey, it's Trent Williams, it's Bosa, it's Fred Warner. Who did I forget? I left somebody out. Oh, Purdy. But if you just said, here's these guys, right? Like Christian, like I've just thought about what you just said when I've seen like some locker room. There was a photo from
check.
Sunday Juice, obviously. There was a photo from the post game the other night, and it was I think it was Fred. It might have been, was it Fred, Nick, and Christian? Kind of just like still on their pads in the locker room. And you're just looking at it like, holy, look at these guys. Like, look at these three guys. Look at that guy. When you just add a guy like that in the middle of a season to a team, and then he, we could debate who's their most important. I mean, Bosa's been freaky important, but.
Did you see the clip on social media last week? It was Chris Forrester was talking to the media, and he was saying that like McCaffrey came up to him after the game, and this would have been after the Miami game. And obviously they just, win 33-17, enormous win, and just like, fuck, this team might be really good. And he said McCaffrey came up to me and was like, I missed an assignment on Pass Pro. That won't happen again. And Forrester looks at him. He's like, bro, we just won 33-17. You're fine. Like, relax. We're good, man. Celebrate. Give me a hug. Like, just chill. But he's like, that's the type guy he is. Coward last week had Montana on. He has Burrow on every week on his podcast, and he brought Montana on, and it was the three of them. But it was basically just Montana and Burrow. And I watched it, and I've listened a couple times, but watching like Joe Burrow is. And I text Colin, I'm like, Joe reminds me a lot of like the Warriors guys, just very calm, like just very, very impressive. And then I was like, McCaffrey is like one thing I've noticed. McCaffrey has felt a lot like a Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Like just watching his press conferences and like reading things, the way people talk about him. Like, I guess not that I didn't think he was like that, but you're not focused in on a guy when he's on an irrelevant team. He's a really, really high level guy. And the guys, Kyle, like, think of the guys that he leans on. And this is where I give him a lot of credit, is from the Trent Williams move to obviously trading for, Christian McCaffrey. Even his quarterback room is Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Jimmy Garoppolo, like really high. Like, I give Kyle credit on this. And he gets shit on this when people talk about his quarterbacks historically, is like, I think he's got a pretty good feel for what works. D'Amico was like known as Mufasa. I think that was his nickname. Like, super high level. Everywhere he went, team captain, people fucking loved him. That's Kyle's guy. What happened last year? Welker and Ayuk didn't get along. Who'd he sign with? Fucking Ayuk. Wes, you're not. Who else didn't get along with Welker? Belichick. I'm not anti-Welker, but I got to give Kyle some credit on that. I choose Ayuk over Welker too. And even Ayuk mentioned it earlier in the season. He's like, people, he said it after the Miami game. He's like, yeah, people know. Like, actually, we don't. Me and Welker used to butt heads a little bit, but I went up and it's all love. That was news to me. But it's Welker ain't here randomly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Kyle's got a pretty good feel. Like, all of his guys are just not fuck around guys. Like, it's a lot of serious cats, man. What did they do? Extend Greenlaw early in the season. What's Greenlaw? Turn into fucking like Bowman Jr. I mean, how did they see this coming? It's crazy.
It's probably why they have maybe a slightly different view of McGlinchey than the public does, right? Or everybody else does.
But the difference is, like, I can live with a Greenlaw missed tackle. It's like McGlinchey.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, like, he fits their profile of guy.
Okay, well, I'd resign him 1 year, $2 million.
I mean, I don't think you said this. Kyle's in love with Juszczyk, right?
In fairness, I've never heard Kyle defend McGlinchey. It's more Lynch.
Yeah, that's true. All the running backs they've had for the most part. Mostert had some weird trade demand or whatever, and they basically ignored him, right? But I say all the running backs kind of feel like they fit that mold. Marquise Goodwin wasn't, not quite that guy. He's gone.
Well, who's like, I mean, they clear Hufunga. To me, Hufunga.
Yeah, Hufunga.
I mean, I texted buddy today. He's like, where I fucked up evaluating him? I underestimated like his instincts. I had him as a linebacker. And clearly he's got limitations in the back end, but you saw tonight. And even I think, again, Herbie, I thought Herbie was pretty locked in tonight, even though they can't say it's Ebukam. It's just Samson Ebukam. It's a pretty easy name to say. Him and Al struggle with that one, which in fairness, if you don't follow,
I feel like Al was saying it Herbie's way to kind of cover her.
Which I'll give you Pat. It's not like Fred Smith. But the one thing you see with Hufunga that I bet they loved in college, he was just crushing people. But then I bet you get to know him and like him. He's like, oh, he's our type guy. But you would think a lot of other coaches would really like him. If you told me like the Patriots loved him, Andy Reid would like him. Some teams though get like, and this is where Kyle has gotten criticism over the years. Like he'll lean with the less physical traits for the guy. And so a lot of coaches that like high-level guys would just be like, yeah, he's not fast enough to play on our defense. Right? Because that's not like Hufunga just speed in the space. They're like, yeah, can't do it. Kyle's like, yeah, we'll figure it out. He's a high-level guy.
It doesn't show. I mean, you did this for a profession. Sometimes you just have to Purdy, Hufunga, you just have to see it play out on a field before you can really know the projections. So Kyle leans with, at minimum, I can trust the person, and I know he'll compete, right?
And for both those guys, for example, Hufunga gets to play on a defense with Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Eric Armstead, Jimmy Ward, Charvarius Ward, right? I mean, Lenore's becoming feels like a pretty solid player.
He has. I'll say this too for Kyle. You and I have talked about this over the years, and it's not really a compliment anyone wants to hear, but like his teams have never, even when they've been bad, they've never felt like they lay down. And his teams do seem to deal with adversity pretty well, right? Like his teams year to year have dealt with a lot of adversity, and they really handle adversity well. Now this year they are thriving through adversity. Again, we did it. What was the list of teams that have started three quarterbacks that we came up with?
Rams, the Panthers. Started
is what we wanted to go with.
I think it ends. I think it ends there. The Jets, but Flacco played, but he didn't start.
Oh wait, Flacco did start early in the year though, didn't he?
I think that was last year.
Okay.
I think.
So if we're forgetting a team, but that's
potentially that was either last year or this year, but yeah.
Historically, starting three quarterbacks, I think you said this the other day. It doesn't take a
well, look at the Panthers. Look at the Panthers and the Rams. They're having a rough season.
Yeah, it's a recipe for a disaster. And Kyle Shanahan's going to win his third guy's a rookie.
One thing I saw
credit too for picking this guy over Sudfeld, right?
Well, yeah, they noticed it early on.
Oh yeah, the beginning of the season. Remember? Yeah, Flacco did start early.
Totally forgot. Oh yeah, because he got hurt in the preseason, huh? He rolled his knee. Good call. Zach Wilson and Trey have had bizarre careers, huh? But you know what? In the history of sports, more often than not, those type careers happen than Patrick Mahomes, right? I think this is the thing. We all think, and more often than not, Brock Purdy becomes Kirk Cousins, right? That's usually how it happens. Most people are not like, number one overall pick called up after year one, Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, those guys, like this guy, Andy Reid trades up 5 years later, best quarterback ever. Like that's usually not the way it works.
Right.
It's like all the hype sucks. All the hype, average. All the hype, traded. It's usually like not that much hype. Dak Prescott, I mean, that's usually the way it goes.
Do you think, it does make me wonder.
It's what makes, honestly, sports pretty cool.
100%.
Because
that everybody universally goes, you can't win like this. And here they are. They've won. It does make me wonder if Kyle would he have drafted Zach Wilson? Because it feels like Zach, at the most important position, would have not been a total fit with the guys that Kyle typically likes from a personality standpoint, leadership standpoint.
I don't think so. Because I have friends that weren't huge fans.
We talked about it. There was plenty of whispers before the year.
Yeah.
One of the benefits of drafting character guys, they don't give up, says Benjamin. Pancho Villa says Kyle deserves coach of the year. He's winning with 3 different QBs. So we talked about this the other day, possible coach of the year. It's going to be hard to take it from Nick Sirianni.
What's his minimum 15-2 number 1 seed? Does he get it?
Lock. Yeah. And even if he goes 13-3, which means he finishes, 13-4, right?
Yeah, he'd have to lose out though, right? Or go 1-3 down the stretch.
1-3. Even that, are they still the 1 seed then? No, the Niners actually could end up. We'll see Minnesota. The Niners Philly's not doing that, but I think my coach of the year.
Dallas only has 3 losses, and they still play Philly.
Dallas only, yeah, it's true.
Dallas sneaky big game this week against the Jags. Jags are hot.
Saturday night. They're putting Christmas Eve. Oh no, that's next week.
That's next week, yeah.
Wait, Jags is this week?
Yeah, I think it's Sunday morning.
So, Eagles Cowboys is Saturday night, Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve, yeah.
What number is that sucker going to do?
That's the Saturday night Christmas Eve game.
Thanksgiving game. Eagles Cowboys.
I'm not going to lie, I haven't even looked ahead that far.
I heard Greg Olsen.
That feels like it gets caught up.
The only reason I was even thinking about it is because I listened to Greg Olsen on a podcast talking about. He's like, I haven't been to Jacksonville before.
Oh, that's the game they're doing.
They're doing that this week because it's the Cowboys. It's just
he never even played Jacksonville as a player.
Well, he didn't say. He just I took it as hadn't broadcasted, but I'm sure he went and played there before.
No, maybe not. He played for the Bears in Seattle, right?
Yeah, so Niners. Carolina. Oh God, Niners play at the same time as Eagles Cowboys.
So it's not the night game; it's the afternoon game.
No, the night game on Saturday, John. The night game. The night game, the standalone 5:15 Pacific night game. Raiders Steelers. Raiders Steelers.
Can that be flexed? How many games? You're telling me Eagles
Saturday's
Cowboys
overloaded with games.
Well, there's only 3 games on Sunday.
Ugh. I guess Christmas Day. Okay.
Why wouldn't you move Cowboys? What are we doing?
All right. I just want to finish this point on Shanahan, and we can complain about that on beginning of next week's pod. So I would put Shanahan right now.
It's the only sport where you start talking about next week's game, whereas this week's still being talked about. No other sport does that.
I would put Shanahan right now. I'd go Sirianni, Kyle. I'd go Sirianni and then Kyle right now. Coach of the year.
Who would Kyle be behind in the NFC? Zach Taylor won the Super Bowl, so even if he wins 13 games, it's like what?
Yeah. And he's done. That's legit. He's
Andy ain't getting it.
No, which always sucks. Like if we think
Vrabel's falling off a map.
McDermott, Buffalo, legitimate candidate. He's legit. To me, you have a great team, you deserve. But are they a great team? Whatever. I think it's Kyle number 2 right now.
Feels like it's going to be very difficult for him to get it.
Yeah, he just as long as Philly's the 1 seed, to me, that's then they're getting it. But McVay,
this is what
here's what McDaniel's falling off, right?
Yeah, Miami's in trouble. This is all we wanted out of Kyle. I just pulled up Sean McDermott because I was like, has he ever won Coach of the Year before? He hasn't. But in 2017, he first got there. Remember that year? Andy Dalton threw a game-winning touchdown against the Ravens, and they had donated everyone to the charity, and they got in at 9-7. Yeah, that was a weird year, but they got in 9-7. And then they actually weren't that good. The next year they missed. They went 6-10. Then once they get Josh Allen, they basically go 10-6, 13-3, 11-6, and this year they're going to win 13-plus games. But just every year, playoffs. Like the Chiefs, wouldn't you just chalk up the Bills? If Josh Allen's healthy, playoffs for the next, they've made it 4 straight years, another 5 straight, 9, 10 just straight years of making playoffs. And that's what's crazy about Kyle, where he's going to get a lot of respect, is like he's doing it with Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. Sean McDermott should be doing what he's doing, and it's impressive. And Andy Reid with Mahomes, like that's impressive. Or now Zach Taylor with Burrow, like that's what you do when you get fucking John Elway, Dan Marino, right? Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. You just go to the playoffs. Roethlisberger, even Tomlin's like, this year's going to be exciting. I remember listening to a podcast this offseason where he's like, I'm excited the juice of not having been around and having to prove myself. How's it going? They're going to miss. It's hard. It's very, very difficult. And this is the importance of having a coach that controls a side of the ball, and specifically the offense, right? Because he can manipulate this. This is where coaches get in trouble, where it's like, fire this motherfucker. It's like, well, yeah, he can, but like, what's the head coach doing? Just giving rally speeches, right? High-fiving guys during the week in the team room, like
organizing meetings. Just using the practice plan that the guy he worked for used before.
I like my coach to control a side of the ball, specifically the
like
offense.
Brandon Staley in defense.
But you know what? If in fairness to him, if he was awesome and their defense was sweet, you'd be like, fuck yeah. Sweet defensive coordinator, head coach, and Herbert.
Let's talk about the 49ers defense, John. We can talk about a few guys, but here's a nugget they had on the Amazon broadcast. The Niners defense has 14 interceptions and has allowed 12 passing touchdowns. They're the only team in the NFL that has more interceptions than touchdowns allowed. Although I would say
they have a pick tonight.
Well, they had the Lenore pick that got erased, and the fumble bounced like it perfectly into like it was a pick.
They've gotten some good fumble bounces this year, huh?
Yeah, it was a good fumble bounce. But it was just a complete. I mean, we could go through the list and talk about all the guys. I mean, you mentioned Lenore's playing really well. Mooney Ward was was toe to toe with DK Metcalf. I guess we'll have to check on Jimmy Ward's health, right? He left that game. Greenlaw was incredible. Yeah, concussion protocol. Well, I don't know protocol. Just went into the tent, hit his head, I think, on the ground.
I mean, he throws his body around like a fucking reckless, like he doesn't give a shit, which I like.
Well, he was the first guy there on the Greenlaw forced fumble. The first guy there was Jimmy.
Crushed him. Yeah.
These guys tackle. Man, Seattle was, you could tell for the first half, no match for this front.
No. I mean, to me, Ward tonight.
Wait, like Mooney Ward went in the tent? Not Jimmy?
Well, he came back in the game.
Well, Mooney went in the tent and came back.
Yeah, Tarvarius, because he was running around the sideline, but he came back in the game.
The whole chat is telling me I got the wrong Ward.
Well, we got multiple
Wards.
Wards.
Would be fine if they both came back. Okay. Anyway, continue.
To me, if I sign a corner to a lot of money, and Richard always pushed back on this, like it's about the defense, not shadowing. Which I get it. Like the defense, like I don't shadow for a reason. I'm cool because he was always adamant, right? In the defense, the Pete Carroll defense, we don't change sides. That was always, remember, the peak of him and Revis, and even with the 49ers, like, you guys do not understand the scheme, which I don't, Richard. And sure, I'm a fan, but I'm sorry. If I pay a premium for my sweet corner, if I'm going up against Jerry Rice to DK Metcalf to Tyreek Hill, I want my guy to chase that guy around. Isn't that the way basketball works, right? If I got Kawhi Leonard, if you got Steph Curry, I'm going to throw Kawhi Leonard on Steph Curry. Like, that's the point of defense. And tonight, maybe it's happened before, but it felt like really in our face. He was just following DK Metcalf. And my girlfriend was like, is that a wide receiver? I'm like, yeah, he's like the biggest wide receiver in the league. He's a fucking monster. I showed her the picture of like him with the shirt off with Pete Carroll. I'm like, yeah, he doesn't look like anyone else, right? And he's an incredible player. I'm like, yeah, he's actually really good too. He's not just this enormous guy. And they were fucking going blows. And it was like, this is why you sign him, Yeah. Obviously, I think smaller receivers are going to be hard. He's a bigger guy. He just went fucking toe-to-toe with that guy.
Yeah.
You had to feel, if you're John Lynch, and Kyle's probably not thinking like John and Adam Peters are up in the box, like, this is why we signed this motherfucker. This is sweet. This is where we get credit.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I guess Kyle, we've not heard Kyle post game. Kyle said after the game that Mooney Ward passed the concussion test on the sideline, but he held him out. Kyle,
long season. Yeah, just good guys.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
Bosa?
I mean, did he win the Defensive Player of the Year award tonight?
I think he's the leader of the clubhouse. I mean, I know Mike is going to play. Look, the season's not done. The Cowboys are going to play some huge games on big time stage. Micah Parsons got a shot, but I think the thing that you see with Nick, and I think you probably see this with Micah Parsons too, for every one sack he gets 6 almost sacks. You know, he just affects the game on every single snap. Every single snap. I don't know if there's been I mean, he's on the short list of defensive players that you could just lock in on him, watch, and you would really enjoy just watching the game. Just lock in on Nick and just watch. Because he is around the ball a lot on a pass play and on a run play. So you don't really miss anything if you just watch Nick, because he's going to get to the quarterback right before the quarterback throws the football, probably.
Well, doesn't he feel like, you know, the old coaches, like Bill Parcells sitting in his house, or Parcells feels way older than Jimmy Johnson, even though they're both probably like in their 70s, or, you know, Bill's probably 80 now. Like that generation that are still kind of alive, when they're talking to their friends or whatever, like that's the guy that, like, this guy could have fucking played in our day in '83. Chris Long, I just typed in Bosa to Twitter. He's like, you don't need to overthink the Defensive Player of the Year. It's Nick Bosa. Best player on the best defense at a premium position. Just plain wins his one-on-ones. I love me some Micah Parsons, no matter how much I disagree with his Jalen take. He'll get one. It's just Bosa's year. I think start to finish, I just don't see how he doesn't win it. And if he does, I mean, there were some incredible Willis seasons. This is probably one of the better 49er, you know, defensive seasons post, you know, from their start in their run in like 1981. I bet Ronnie Lott had some years. You know, Charles Haley, Deion Sanders had the 1 year in '94. Willis had some incredible years. I know Alden had the 19 sack year, but it felt like Willis was their best defensive player. I mean, Nick is... I just think like he's a transcendent talent. That's what's crazy. Like his brother was really, you know, drafted 3rd overall and was awesome. And it was worth when healthy, every team in the league would break him off $100 million. Feels like Nick's way better. Feels like Nick is like Vaughn when he was young, just like an unstoppable force. You know, Khalil had the 1 year. The thing with Nick, it feels like it's just, this is going to translate as long as he stays healthy for years, because he's not like predicated off strength. He's strong, but it's all speed and moves. And that's why Herbie was like, oh, he's figured him out. It's like he figured him out. It's like a Taekwondo master, you know, like he knows where he's trying to like put his hands. Nick is not just picking you up and shoving you back. That's actually, I'd say, his last move. You rarely see just the bull rush, which is something I think over time that is diminishes. Why has Von Miller had such a long career? Because he goes around you. You know, and there was a play tonight where even they were like, look how low he is.
I know.
But it's low, but he's not breaking stride. Now, I'm not trying to be a homer or whatever, but
I don't think
that roughing the passer was one of the stupider calls of the year.
It's funny. Bosa said after the game, I saw people were telling us in the chat that, and I saw a few tweets that he thought it was a good call.
What's the rule? You just can't fall on him.
Yeah, you can't, like, with the whole force of your body, drive them into the turf.
But it didn't feel very violent, did it to you?
I thought it was violent. I hate the call, though. Fundamentally hate the call. As you said to me in a text, what's he supposed to do? Float?
Skip also. I hate to admit it. That's Skip Bayless. I hate to admit this publicly, but right now the 49ers pass rusher is better than the Cowboys.
You know that
right now Nick Bosa is playing at a much higher level than Micah Parsons.
You know what that tells me?
He's trying to motivate Micah?
No, that one of the producers was like, you know, Skip, talking Niners actually isn't that much worse than talking Cowboys for the rating. So if you want to take any shots that you could go, if you wanted to pivot to Niners, that'd be fine for the ratings. Now, don't pivot to, don't pivot to the Bills. That's not going to work for us. Don't pivot to the Chiefs. I mean, they're great, but that's not going to work for us. But if you want to pivot Niners, we're going to do the same numbers. So do whatever you want. That's what that tells me. All of a sudden, John, just stop playing the game for a second to tweet about Nick Bosa. I don't think so. So I think what you said, Chris Long said, he is on the number one defense. He's the best player on the number one defense. Like, to me, a lot of defensive rankings don't matter. Just like general, you belly up to a bar, order a Tito's and soda, start talking football. The one thing that you just hear people say, the number one defense, that just resonates in a way that, there are a lot of things that are probably better, DVOA and all kinds of other. Did you say number one? Well, probably number one DVOA. I mean, we can check.
Well, before Russell Westbrook
number one defense
won the MVP that one year for the Thunder, and they were like the 6 or 7 seed. I think historically, for like 30 straight years, the MVP in the NBA had come from a 1st or 2nd seed. And I bet if we looked at the MVP in football, I would say for 30 years, the majority of the MVP was on like either the 1st or 2nd seed. Like, you're usually like, the reason would Jalen Hurts be the MVP if they instead of being 12-1, they were, 9-3, right? No. It's part of being 12-1, which it's like, and I think most people disagree. Yeah, I got no problem with it, right? If Mahomes right now, if you reverse the records and they were 9-3 or 10-3 and the Chiefs were 12-1, it'd be like, oh, Mahomes going to win it, no doubt about it. So like that matters with the other awards. This one, I would say the only reason Mike has a chance is on the Cowboys, right? If Micah Parsons, who is an awesome player, we all agree, like no one's disputing that he's not like in that tier. But if Micah Parsons was, let's just pick a fringe play, the football team, it would be like, oh, Bosa's already won it, right? It'd already be over. And in fairness to Micah, like he built up a Bosa-like hype last year as a defensive rookie of the year.
You come into the year with it, that helps.
And remember, because when we talked about Drake Jackson, could he get defensive rookie of the year? I don't think he's going to get it. You're like, well, usually when you're the defensive rookie of the year, it just turns out you're going to be one of the best players in the league for the foreseeable future. And that's what Micah Parsons like. Yeah, the defensive rookie of the year, and I'm going to be a DPOY candidate for the next 5 straight years. And that's the case. You could argue like these two guys might be in the mix if they stay healthy for the next, I don't know, several years.
Sure.
Right? I mean, the only thing
Nick is playing his best football right now. And obviously, Micah, they're both coming in. Nick's coming into his. He
gave up carbs.
Give up carbs. That's dedication. Hold on now. Niners have played in 14 games, right? So Bosa, it's hard, like right after a game ends, to get the stats right. Bosa's got 1, 3, 4, 6, 7,
15.5.
It is 15.5. Is that correct?
Well, Stats and Info tweeted that out tonight.
Okay, so if it's 15.5, then he's matched last year's sack total already.
He did. Yeah.
Okay. John, before we go any further, I just got a
I mean, technically, he's obviously other teams have not played. He's the league leader.
He's the league leader. I just got a DM from one of our listeners. This is Corey. For those of you watching, he just sent me this photo of him in the living room watching the show. You can see there we are up on the screen.
Are we gonna get flagged for this?
You think this is a YouTube violation?
I don't know I don't think you're allowed to put nudes on the YouTube, but
oh. It's a butt cheek. You can show a butt cheek.
Yeah, you can show a butt cheek.
Maybe hold on. Let me do some photo editing there. For those of you listening, it's he's naked. He's naked watching the show.
Trust me, I don't care.
Well, I know. No, the number one thing is I just don't want to get flagged on YouTube.
Yeah.
Nobody reported.
I'm butt cheek. I mean, shit, I'm not gonna kill anybody.
Wow, incredible stuff.
I thought you were gonna say that's Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
I didn't know that. I didn't know butt cheeks qualified as nudity, but I guess you're right.
Yeah, I mean, not. I would say for millennials, no.
Do we do what McCaffrey? Do we need to check on McCaffrey post game?
I
I mean, Buck Mason is the closer. I saw Akash put in our. I guess there was a quote that McCaffrey said after the game. He calls Jordan Mason Mariano Rivera. He's a closer. Little odd to just ride McCaffrey all day, and then when it comes to winning time, put the game away. Buck Mason gets the handle.
Well, if we were going to talk, tonight's been a happy show. Win the NFC West on December 15th. If we were going to be critical or just might not want to do that all the time, is he overriding this guy? It's kind of crazy. Like, I understand you traded the farm for him. You've idolized his father. You probably, have known the family since you were a kid. You could have Christmas with them and you wouldn't even notice the difference between them and your own family. It does seem a little over aggressive the way they're riding Christian when every single time the backup comes in, he's fine. We're not saying like Christian just split carries, but like for every 7 of his, maybe give 2 to the other guy just to give the guy a breather. He's riding this guy like he's a high school player, and this guy's going to Alabama, and it's like, why wouldn't I give it to him? It's like, Kyle, fucking Jordan Mason clearly fits the scheme. It's 3 straight weeks of like, God, Kyle, he runs his ass off. He runs hard. I understand he's a rookie, so you never know when he's going to fumble. I would say that's the number one thing that probably like coaches are hesitant. Like he hasn't proven. They're stripping, ball security.
But Johnny put him in the game in a 1-score game.
Well, was just Christian out of gas? He'd had 75 touches. I don't know.
Well, I mean, maybe let's manage the gas in the engine a little bit then.
It seems like they're riding this guy like he's Walter Payton. And I like Christian McCaffrey.
Who does? Why you don't want him to ride him? Because you like Christian.
He's been awesome. But I do think Kyle's treating him a little bit like you would Walter Payton in his prime, Adrian Peterson in his prime, or like LaDainian Tomlinson in his prime. He's a really good player. But like he can come off the field like every 3rd series for 2 steps, right? And he does not. He did not come out of the game in the first half. Did 24 enter the game till the 4th quarter?
He got a game right after I tweeted an image of an invisible person and said, "This is how Kyle sees Buck Mason." So
he definitely did not come in the first half.
No, he did not have a carry in the first half. McCaffrey had,
I would say the craziest part about this guy is for 5 straight years, Shanahan, and he's obviously had good running backs. I would say no one of the name recognition.
19 first half touches.
He never treated any of these other guys like Christian McCaffrey.
We didn't like him. He didn't love him. Christian's one of his best receivers. Christian's a fantastic receiver.
But I'm not saying he can't throw in the ball. I'm just saying like the 4th series of the game, like, hey, how about just throw Mason in there for 2 snaps? Even if you don't give him the ball, call pass plays. But like, Christian's just in there nonstop. He treats him like you would a right guard. Hell, they even rotate the guard. Remember, it's like Burford, every 5 series, he comes out of the game for a breather. They did that for like the first 10 weeks. McCaffrey's like, no, we're fucking going down swinging. I feel like he plays more than Trent Williams in the game, McCaffrey's in the game. It's like, Jesus. He was getting peppered tonight.
Well, he doesn't seem like many of his runs end out of bounds. Maybe it's because of how solid he is. All of the collisions are just, it's like 2 head-on. I mean, I guess every football collision is a head-on collision, but his are just brick walls. Feels like he would, if he took the hit backwards, absorb some of the contact, maybe it would be, but he is just a brick wall. So he
got peppered in that.
Everybody just stops right in their spot. He had 26 carries for 108 yards. He had 6 catches for 30 yards. He had 8 targets. So, you can get hit on a target, even if it's not a catch. That can be a collision.
The one that
actually there was. It was 2 dudes were on his back.
Yeah, he got.
So I think it's one of those things. Everybody universally, the week after we watch Debo get hurt, could you?
Well, he would treat it differently if Elijah Mitchell was there.
I know we saw that, but it's just illogical. If you're going to give Buck Mason, I don't know if he knows that's his nickname, but if you're going to give him carries in a 1-score game at the end of the game, how about just give him a couple earlier and then just take a little heat off of Christian? And what about also preparing him for the possibility there may be a quarter where he has to play? It happened already this year, right?
Guy, he's already been hurt. He had a serious knee injury. Like, no one's questioning the guy's toughness. He's proven it back in Stanford. The guy's a war daddy. He's tough. I would treat him a little bit like a modern day running back where we have some other pitches for some other guys, especially when you have this young guy who honestly I think looks fucking sweet. That run at the end of the game, and I get it was the end of the game, but you just kind of had me thinking, like, God, if this guy got some more carries, could he bust some longer runs? He runs violently. Honestly, he reminds me of, remember when Pete had Chris Carson and he was just so violent and they had violent running backs? Because Christian he runs into collisions, but I wouldn't call him a violent player. I feel like Buck, I know his name's Jordan, but runs with like a, motherfuckers, you think I'm an undrafted free agent? I'll make you pay. That's probably why Kyle likes him and the team likes him.
He's like, guys, you aren't you watching Brock Purdy? I can be your Brock Purdy running backs. There's nobody else. You got nobody else. Let me do this.
Well, think about what that guy's bringing to the table, that a guy from LSU who was viewed when he was drafted, and everyone, you and I reached out to people, like everyone liked him. Like, that's a hell of a pick. You and I talked to John Lynch on the sideline. He's like, in training camp, he's like, we never thought he was going to be that guy's awesome. I'm like, fuck, me too. I watched the highlights. I'm like, what a pick, John. What a pick. All of a sudden, that guy can't touch Mason, right? Clearly. I mean, we see the hierarchy. Like, Mason is getting playoff touches, guy. How many? We don't know. But, I mean, he's the guy. If McCaffrey rolls an ankle or whatever, who knows? I could see Kyle giving 75 carries to Christian in a playoff game.
That's Kyle's wet dream right there.
I just think that feels a little overkill. Tonight, especially, when it's like, God, you're way better in this team.
But it's just like it's the Debo game. Last week, everyone was telling me, John's 21-0. It's only the first half. Brady's got comebacks. And today, Kyle, and to be fair to Kyle, he could easily argue, look, guys, it's a 2-score game. I mean, what Seattle scores, bam, all of a sudden it's a 1-score game. And I'm trying to win today. I got to go with McCaffrey. But you obviously trust. I just go back to, we always like to say coaches tell you what they think by their actions. You've said that a lot. Well, if Jordan Mason's getting carries in a 1-score game where you have to pick up the first down, you end the game, then I think your actions say you do trust him a little bit, or you're just out of other options and something wrong with Christian. One of the two.
Yeah, see, but the Debo thing last week was argument like how you should use him, right, for injury. I'm not even arguing Christian McCaffrey injuries. I'm just arguing the best way to keep guys fresh.
Yeah.
Right? Like, is McCaffrey fresher and more explosive in the fourth quarter if instead of having 20 touches through 3 quarters, he has 14? Because Mason got a couple, got 3, and instead
7. Can we split the difference, make it 17?
You threw passes to Ayuk. I understand Christian wants to play. We all want Christian to play. We're all glad he's here. But I think treating him like Earl Campbell in his prime, it feels a little nuts. And part of it's a little unlike the Niners have operated, I would say, for 5 years with their running backs. And I get he's more famous but Mostert was really good for them, right? When he was humming in 19, they gave balls to multiple people. They just kind of rotated. Maybe that's an Anthony Lynn thing. Maybe Mike McDaniel is more of an equitable coach when it came to throwing guys in there. I don't know.
Sorry, the video of the Niners coming through the tunnel just appeared in my timeline. You sent me a screenshot. I had not quite seen the video of just...
Bro, he was in the front.
Guys just arriving for battle.
Well, it wasn't. What I think is the coolest part about it is like 71's always in the front. It's usually 71 and 19, 2 of your best players. You could argue your 2 best players, besides like Bosa. Well, those guys were Debo's at home, Instagramming at his house with his kid.
Stories.
So it's like it's not even Ebba. Yeah, it's Ebba. But to me, Danny Gray, who has been injured in warmups and did he get hurt tonight?
Yeah, because I said I feel one more score and Shanahan's going deep to him. And everyone started tweeting me like he's got a hamstring, which I didn't even see. If you watched it live when he's rolling out, his confidence on this walk is like, in his mind, he is Trent's equal.
Like I'm on the Niners. He's on the Niners. I'm wearing the jersey. He's wearing the jersey. I fucking got a helmet. I got like we're going to battle. Seattle.
I could see, and you tweeted like these uniforms are fire. I could see you just look at yourself in the mirror in that uniform before you hit the field, and you're like, holy shit, I look fucking sweet.
They do look pretty good, don't they?
How dare I was honestly like, I'm not mocking the Seahawks uniforms necessarily, but for them to put that on when the Niners, it'd be like the Niners dressed in a really nice black tie event, a gorgeous tuxedo, and the Seahawks showed up in the Dumb and Dumber tuxes tonight.
It's kind of their uniform though.
I know, but it doesn't even fully match. Like it's just bad. Like it's that uniform's terrible.
I'm gonna push back.
No,
maybe I'm numb to it over the years. Like
it's just these guys showed up in such a classic uniform. How about we get a classic Seahawks uniform for the game?
Is Seattle like a classic team though?
No, I mean their history with a classic uniform. They were one of the worst franchises in sports.
Yeah, it's not like you're playing Pittsburgh or Dallas or something. I mean, it's just. I guess what I'm saying is I'm kind of. It feels normal when I see them in that kind of green, pukey, neon, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, it's like leftover from when the league used to do color rush jerseys.
I guess part of it though is like since they've been good, I feel I've seen them in those play a lot of games. Like they built up credibility.
Like the highlighter with the blue pants, it was like they left their pants in the dryer wet and they had to put on some other pants. It just
tough look.
Wasn't quite working. Let's see. Kittle, we want to talk about him. Look good. NFC big picture is we don't have to talk about the NFC big picture tonight, but the future.
You know, Minnesota's only a 4-point favorite at home against Fighting Jeff Saturdays on Saturday morning. Like seriously? Vegas, people do not think Minnesota's good.
Well, that Minnesota I identify with, but still, the Colts 4 points
coming off a bye, Fighting Jeff Saturdays.
What's Jeff's record off a bye career?
I mean, I don't think he's won a game since he played the Raiders, but I did see a quote. You showed me that he's interested in the job, and I saw. Did you see the still shot of Irsay at the owners' meetings with a cigarette and the golf cart?
In a golf cart. What did you smoke? Throwing darts, basically.
Yeah, I mean, what is that? What
was that?
It had to be an owners' meeting, right?
Oh, wait a second. We missed Irsay's concert
tonight.
No, it was on the bye. He last week.
Oh, shit.
Wow, Vikings a 4-point. I mean, that
game doesn't do anything to me. Like the Colts, I just refuse to give time to.
But tell me it's a close game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, or you just be like, hey, it's 10-10 at half. I'll be like, fuck yeah, go Colts.
That's a 10 a.m. That's a 10 a.m. Saturday game.
Do you feel a lot differently about the 49ers if they're the 2 or the 3 seed?
No.
Like, to me, that's
what went to Minnesota.
They feel a little bit like Alabama would in a playoffs. Like, whatever. I mean, you let them in to see what happens. Like, I'm not worried about their seeding. Where it does matter, like that, I do think the Philly game, like that would be hard. Obviously, you'd rather, but doesn't feel attainable.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's not so much about the value of the 3 versus the 2 or the 2 versus the 3, so much as it is if they end up with the 2 seed, what does that mean for the way they've continued to play? It's more about that. Like it means Minnesota's lost maybe a game they shouldn't lose, and it means the Niners are already in the playoffs on.
What do they? Yeah, do they finish 10 straight wins?
Yeah, it's which is feels a little scary, but maybe you rest all the starters for the Raider game.
It would probably be one of the if they did win out Washington, Raiders, Arizona, which they're going to be favored in all 3 of these games, right? I'd have to look. I mean, I would imagine it's one of the longer winning streaks in franchise history, right? How many teams in the NFL have 10-game winning streaks? Like I'd imagine that's a pretty long winning streak. Like half the franchises in the NFL haven't sniffed that. And that's 7 games is a long winning streak. I mean, 7 games is basically you just haven't lost a game in 2 months. Think about that. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I'm searching, but it looks like it's going to be a more challenging search than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's not an irrelevant thing, but What's the longest winning streak? The longest winning streak in the San Francisco, 15 games. 1989. But this, I remember this happened with the Patriots, and it concluded in the 90 season. Like, I don't count those.
Right. You want one season. Yeah. Like, they won 9 straight games, right, in 2019.
So the winning streak started November 27th, 1989. They won the Super Bowl, and then it ended November 25th, 1990. Like, that doesn't count. Like,
yeah, we're looking for single-season win streaks.
They went 10-0 and 90. Like, that's 10 straight wins. Like, that's
Christopher in our research department.
I would guess that 10 games is the franchise record, right, in one season, which is fucking hard to do. You could have 3 5-game winning streaks and go, what? I mean, right, or 3 2 5-games and a 4-game and finish 15-2. Like, that's football, and you're like 15-2. Like, you go 13-4, you have some devastating losses at that night, right?
It's not going to, like, if they could lose one of these last 3, in the grand scheme, you'd shrug it off, but it wouldn't feel good in that moment, depending on how it looks.
To me, the only game that's loss worthy is the last game if they want to, throw some guys.
Want to what? Josh Johnson?
Well, I'm just saying, like, rest some guys. I don't think that would be crazy, right?
Do you have enough?
Trent Williams, Bosa doesn't play. Well, I'm just saying it would depend on the seeding, right? Like, if the game didn't matter. If I told you the game didn't matter, would you play Brock Purdy? Would you play Trent Williams? Would you play Nick Bosa?
No.
Would you play George Kittle?
Nope.
Would you play Brandon Ayuk?
Nope.
Would you play McGlinchey?
Nope.
Yes. Well, you have to.
I wouldn't play. I wouldn't play Juice. I mean, several DBs I wouldn't play. Like, Ambry's getting that start.
I would run the same play over and over. It'd be the biggest joke game. Like,
just go air raid.
Every single person watching this and listening to this, you'd be like, by the third series, you'd be like, I don't know if I can watch. But that would be I'd be like, I'm going to run the same play over and over and over again.
Right. Which, Kyle's down for that. It's a run play. Just
which you're allowed to do if, like, you're the 3 seed.
Just so you know, that play is a run play, FYI.
Well, yeah, it's just like, this is the same play I run no matter what. So, you mean the toss sweep? Yeah, I love it.
I've seen this game before. Anything else on the game Thursday night playoffs?
I think that was really impressive how they came out swinging. Like, I expected them to win. I was actually really confident. Like, I was like, I think the 49ers are going to win. I didn't think they were just going to show up and be like bullies from the start on a short week.
I honestly thought their first series, they went 3 and out, and I was like, completed 2 balls. I thought the first series for having to punt after 3 plays, I was like, Brock looks pretty comfortable. I'm not too worried about it.
I thought the pass on 3rd down to McCaffrey that he got stopped like at the inch line was like pretty impressive.
I was like, all right, punt, whatever. The second I saw their defense getting after Geno, I just thought it was pretty clear. Like, all right, Seahawks are going to this is going to be a tough one tonight. So I felt good about them. Maybe
if you flip flop quarterbacks, do the Niners easily win this game with Geno Smith?
Tonight was the first night that Brock, he hasn't had that many games to play, but he did miss some throws that were there today. Now, he hit the wide-ass open. He hit those plays in stride. His first incompletion was that throw to McCaffrey that I'm not sure if there was a miscommunication or what exactly happened.
Where McCaffrey kind of smoked the linebacker.
Yeah, out in the left flat.
Yeah.
And the ball was nowhere near. And then the next, that was 2nd down, and the 3rd down was the play with Ayuk to the other sideline. So I don't know. I mean, I thought it was an interesting box score in that he made some just really fluid on the run. The play, they had multiple penalties where he fell down, got up, threw across his body on the run, complete for a first down, didn't count, was pretty incredible. So I thought he looked pretty damn good. Better than the box score. I mean, but to say that Geno couldn't have won if you flipped him, he probably could have. Just because their defense was, imagine Purdy dealing with the pressure the Niners put on Geno. The Niners put a ton of pressure on Geno today.
I mean, you're sitting here after going 3-4. You win the division. You've won 7 straight games. Seattle, we talked about this the other day. I think they still have a bright future, right? They got some sweet picks coming. Their GM, I think, is good. Quarterback, though, is very unsettled. The other 2 teams one team, their fucking GM is on absent leave health issue, as you text me, probably never coming back. I think there's a decent chance he's never the head honcho again. Coach could get fired. Their starting quarterback is a torn ACL. I saw someone tweet, "Is McVay quiet quitting?"
The Great Resignation.
He's a quiet quitter. So it's like, and those were actually the two better teams in Seattle last year when all three of you made the team.
That's funny.
It's now things in the NFL change so fast, so you never know. But it's pretty crazy where we're sitting here.
If you put odds on opening day starters in the NFC West at quarterback for 2023, who would have the best odds right now?
Well, Kyler's out.
It'd be either. Would it be Brock ahead of Stafford? Or am I putting too much stock in what Michael
Could he be quiet quitting too?
Could be. He made a lot of money. Now he also got $93 million coming to him if he keeps playing.
Well, do you think McVay and Stafford are their coach and their quarterback next year?
I kind of do.
If not, that's an enormous story. If you check your phone and Sean McVay has quit, right? And that's, even though we've talked about it before, that's insane if you read that, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Stafford retiring is not, I would say McVay quitting is probably crazier than Stafford retiring. I think McVay quitting would be one of the, like, that really just happened. Yeah. He quit. But people kind of talk about it like it's on the table.
Yeah.
He doesn't have children, guy.
A lot of smoke there.
He's fucking 36. He just got married. It's like, I got a family time. You don't even have kids. What do some of these older coaches think? Like, what is like just the average? Like, Pete Carroll's fucking 70. Like, Sean,
doesn't matter
Jesus
what they
Christ,
think. He's got a ring and he's rich. What is he? He doesn't care what they think.
Well, I know, but I don't want him to leave.
I know. Neither do I. I'd rather him play every Sunday than be on TV broadcasting.
Yeah, like you can get rid of Cliff. To me, Pete and McVay add to my juice. I like those.
Kyle versus McVay is also part of it.
And right? I thought Pete tonight was like, this shit meant a lot to him this season. Like Pete's fucking been into this thing.
And I think the odds are that Geno's their opening day starter next year. But I mean, they could draft a guy who just becomes their starter.
When they've proven it before. Like they'll start the guy if he's better.
Yeah. Steve Keim is who John was referring to. That's away from the team, the GM of the Cardinals. Health
absence, but HIPAA, right? Team was like HIPAA.
Oh, did they?
They're like, rules and regulations we're not allowed to say. It's like, yeah, it's like, is he sick? Like, is he okay? It's kind of the whole thing was a little weird. I thought the way I think I saw Schefter tweet it out. I just thought it
a little shady, a little questionable.
Yeah, just given everything that's happening, guy. They've had their running back coach beat up a girl at a store. Their offensive line coach hit a woman in Mexico, did something weird in Mexico, got fired on the spot. Yeah. Their quarterback tears his ACL, and then 2 days later, their general manager is out for health issues for the foreseeable future. Like that's a weird.
Was it last offseason he had a DUI, or was that a few years ago?
It's a couple years ago.
Saturday football: Colts, Vikings, Ravens, Browns, Dolphins, Bills. 11th. Let me get this right here. Oh, I won't get it right. I'm just guessing. There's an 11:30 to 12:30. I think 11:30 Fresno State, Washington State from SoFi Stadium this Saturday. Both
11:30 a.m.
Yeah, I think that's the 11:30. There's also a 12:30. I think Allegiant Stadium, Florida, Oregon State. But the Bulls all start on Saturday.
Hot take. I wish you just started those games on Monday. Like if the NFL is playing on Saturday, I would rather just like 11:30
Why
Monday.
Why do NFL games this Saturday?
Well, because Roger they see open real estate. Like the moment that Army Navy game finishes, they're like next Saturday, it's our time.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not gonna.
I'm not either.
Do
you agree though? Wouldn't you just rather turn up Tuesday? It's like Oregon State, Florida at like 11 a.m. You're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, let's replace the World Cup. I'm gonna miss the World Cup when it's gone on Tuesdays. Even though I didn't watch Tuesday or Wednesday, but just knowing it was there if I needed it was nice.
Yeah. You like the Dogs, don't you?
I love the Dogs. Washington State lost both its coordinators.
That's
critical, I think.
Is Oregon State a 10-point favorite against the Florida Gators?
Probably. I mean, Florida's 6-6 and their quarterback left.
I did hear the backup is an Ohio State transfer.
I'm sure he might be better. I mean,
yeah, I think they hated that guy. I think they told that guy, like, either transfer or go pro. Like, you're not going to stay out here anymore. I don't think they were that big on Anthony Richardson.
Sunday games, Eagles, Bears, Chiefs, Texans, Jets, Lions.
That's a good one.
Cowboys, Jags, Cardinals, Broncos, Pats, Raiders.
I'm paying attention to that one.
If they wanted to flex that one into, well, no, Sunday night is this one flexed out of Sunday night already. That was
I've seen the previews that like the advertisement for it makes it seem cool. It's like it's the Giants and football team. No one cares. I mean, people do care. They got big fan bases, but the game sucks.
Titans Chargers, one of those games that you just got to convince yourself it does matter because it actually does matter.
Well, Guy, do you know that the Jags, if the Titans lose that game, control their own destiny?
I did not know that.
I think the Jags play the Titans next week at home. They could technically finish 9-8.
Okay, the Florida-Oregon State game, that's at 11:30. Fresno State was at 12:30. There's North Texas, Boise. I'm just looking at the Saturday. We got a Monday. There is a Tuesday, Liberty, Toledo. Okay.
So if the Dogs would have lost to Boise State, they would have played North Texas. The Mountain West gets such shitty bowl games.
Yeah.
They get terrible bowl games.
Yeah.
I mean, God, what the fuck?
Stag Bowl tomorrow on this Mount Union going for another D3 title, playing the Naval Academy, 7 p.m.
Have you seen the stats on that Incarnate Word quarterback? He's got like 75 touchdowns. I think they play North Dakota State tomorrow. Or maybe that's Saturday.
Is that championship game?
Semifinals.
Okay. It's there. I saw a lot of snow on the ground, North Dakota, but they play indoors, right?
I think so. They play in the like airborne hangar. Or is that Idaho? Idaho definitely did, but I feel like North Dakota State does too.
Oh, they definitely do. We watched all the trade tape.
Yeah, they play in a herring. Yeah, they play inside.
Hashtag film study. Remember,
it's much easier to watch like Alabama or LSU or Ohio State. You know,
Thunderseed. Remember Thunderseed, their big sponsor?
Oh yeah. I'd rather just watch a guy from USC.
All right. Anything else tonight?
What a run!
Subluxation for Steph Curry.
Carlos Rodon, 162 million. Yankees.
6 years, yeah. I'm excited about that. I watched a lot of Yankees. They needed a pitcher.
Well, you see Buster Only tweet like sniffing around a huge trade. Shohei Ohtani, you think?
For who? Yankees?
Well, just like the Yankees are cooking something big, separate from him.
Angels should trade Ohtani. He's not going to come. I don't think he's going to re-sign with them after this year.
If the Yankees landed Ohtani, would they be the favorites to win it all? With Rodon, Judge, and Ohtani?
Garrett Cole.
Giants gave a guy that hit 26 home runs, $350 million. I know he's sweet, but I just Googled his numbers. If I just showed like a guy from like the 80s in baseball, like this guy just got $350 million. I understand he's good. He's the number one overall pick, and he's a high character guy or whatever.
Play shortstop, I guess.
His numbers do not look like $350 million.
I don't know if he's a high character guy. Play shortstop.
I read that, or maybe someone texted me that. 26 home runs. I thought for some reason I thought like 39.
I know. I'm with you. But they got better. Like, what do I care what they paid him?
Fifth or fourth highest contract in the history of the sport.
Overpaid.
Now it's always relative, but did you know that he didn't hit like? I don't know. I just thought he was like.
I did because the other night you were texting me asking about Xander Bogaerts and him. So I was like, I don't know. Let me look at their numbers, and they're actually kind of similar. But I didn't watch Carlos Correa swing the bat once this year as a Minnesota Twin.
How much money did Xander Bogaerts get?
The Padres paid him. They
paid
like
him $280. I thought it was like $280, right? $260 or something.
Was it 11 years? Was that what his contract was?
Why? I looked. I was like, Carlos Correa last year with the Twins signed a 1 or 3-year, $100 million contract, but it was like opt out after 1 year.
It was the opt out. That was the only way you can sign. So it was 11,280 for Bogaerts.
280 is a lot different than 350.
Yeah, I'd take Xander Bogaerts for 280.
Again, not my money. Everyone's like, not my money. I love it when people are like, not my money. Little overpay, but I'm glad he's on the team. Well, yeah, part of the way we talk about sports, like,
you have to manage the budget.
Does this add up?
Yeah, but you also just need players you need good players. You got to get some good players.
He's 28.
Jamal, curious your thoughts on Will Levis, still a raw prospect, but I think he has all the measurables and if given time could realize his potential. Best case scenario is a Hurts type environment.
I think my guess is I think he goes to Seattle.
That would be a Hurts type environment.
I think Seattle's going to like him.
I mean,
John Schneider loved Josh Allen. I think he's got some of that. I could also see Dan Campbell. What if Jared Goff plays well this week and like they make the playoffs or they go 9-8 and like couldn't you just build your team around and just have him as the quarterback?
You could, but I think what you do, unless you're convinced he's the guy, if you like one of the quarterbacks, and right now the Lions are drafting 4th, if you really do legitimately like one of those guys, I think you take him and you go, he can be Jared's backup for a year if that's what it comes to. Right now, Houston is 1, Seattle is 2, Chicago is 3, Detroit is 4, Philly is 5.
Do you know what Jared Goff's career earnings are?
130. Yeah, 130. I'm going to say 130.
Yeah, 135. Good guess. On the hook next year for $25 million.
Yeah, I would draft if you really. To me, it's just simple as like if you really like one of these guys, I would take them. Now, don't be desperate. But
they actually are in a pretty good position. $25 million, they can cut him for dead cap 10. Then the following year, $26 million, cut him for $5 million dead cap. Like they're actually in a good position to do what you said, or if like we'll just roll it out another year, see what happens.
Could you trade him for a 4th? Kind of resurrected him.
Do you know that his stats are like Kirk Cousins and him parallel each other? You know what Jared Goff's numbers are this year?
Well, I saw the other day, like there was some stat where he was like one of the top 3 passers in the league.
65%, 22 touchdowns, 7 picks, with a passer rating of basically 100, which I don't really know what it means, but I know it's solid. But I heard someone talking. They're like, if you put his numbers this year against Kirk Cousins, who I would say everyone and their mother would say Kirk Cousins is a way better player than Jared Goff. Jared Goff has better numbers than Cousins this year.
It's funny, man. It's my own brain. Maybe everyone else suffers from this too. Every time I flip the Vikings on, I'm like, man, Kirk is playing well. I watch him. I go, oh yeah, that's what it looks like. Every single time.
I'm glad I don't have to watch him. He made one play last week. If it turned out to an incredible
for the Niners, one thing it is he kept Kirk Cousins off the team. Sorry. He made one play last week.
I agree. I find Jimmy more watchable. He threw one ball up just like a prayer, and it ends up in Justin Jefferson's fucking belly, and he takes another 30 yards. But it was like, that was the luckiest play I've ever seen. I'm with you. Well, 49ers swept the Seahawks this regular season. Last time that happened, Jim Harbaugh's first season, 2011.
How about that? I saw some other stat. 5-0 in the division for the first time in ever, I think. Is that possible?
Potentially. Sounds right.
Feels right. Feels good.
Well, think about it. They were always losing a game to Seattle.
Yeah, or 2. There was a few years there where they were losing 2 games a year to Seattle.
Arians always play. Arians played a
stretch, I think, where they were losing 2 games a year to Seattle.
Well, remember Russell's record was like 18-2 or something. Yeah. So crazy. That divorce benefited a lot of people. Pete, the Niners, not Russ, but kind of Russ. He got rich. He got a house with a bunch of bathrooms and 2 bedrooms. Everyone hates him and everyone talks shit about him.
No, half his teammates came to his birthday party.
It's true.
He did launch a podcast at the worst time in his career, though. I heard that. It's for free on Audible, which I don't think is a great sign. I mean, this podcast is free, but not on Audible where you usually have to pay for stuff.
Oh, is Audible the book?
Yeah.
One? Yeah.
I don't think it's a good sign when your stuff's free on Audible. Although maybe all their podcasts are free. I don't know. They're trying to pivot to podcast, maybe.
I don't think I've really fucked with Audible.
Boy, I've fucked with Audible because I've got a subscription. I can't download enough books to cancel it. I'm stuck.
Do you listen to a lot of books on tape from Audible?
I have several of them on my phone, but that's how I listen to the Belichick book.
That's separate from like the Books app. Does it say Books? Is that the Audible app?
Yeah.
Or does it say,
no.
say Audible?
It says Audible.
Okay. Yeah, I go to Books.
And would you download audiobooks and they play there?
Yeah.
Where do you download them from?
Books. It just says Books. And then you click on it, you can just search.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Oh, because see, that's great. So it's not a subscription.
No, I don't pay anything.
Yeah. I've done some of that too.
It might just be the iTunes Apple app.
It must be. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Pay,
you just pay.
You pay if you get like
whatever. Audible's like $15 a month, and you get 1 credit. So you basically pay $15 for a book. But the problem is, I'm stuck. If I cancel, I lose all the books, not the books, the credits, and so I gotta find 8 books to download here. So people send me your book recommendations because I need to download a bunch of books and then stop this fucking auto.
Yeah, sometimes like I'll see a book and I'm like, I'll get it, and then it'll be like David Goggins yelling at you. It's like, I don't really want to listen to this, and then you listen to something else. You're like, this is a little too nuts and bolts business book. You try to expand your horizons, and you're like, I can't even. Like they're harder to listen to on a podcast because they take a long time.
Sometimes it's just like,
it's a challenge.
Download Sherlock Holmes, like there's something like that,
Yeah, I would gladly do something like that.
But again, I've tried that one, and then it doesn't. I mean, I haven't actually done Sherlock Holmes, but
something like that, just to kind of
podcast.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Maybe a murder, like a murder podcast, maybe.
Well, Serial, isn't that?
Yeah, do Serial.
Not a bad idea.
Hayden, is this true? Hayden says McCaffrey was seen in a walking boot after the game.
Wouldn't totally shock me, given that he wasn't.
Well, it was very weird that. Seen by who? Now that I've said that, we have to verify it before we leave the show.
Well, he's walking fine when they handed him the phone after the game. Yeah, tough way to end.
Hey, Hayden, can you give us more details on that? Is the ham? We're like Bleacher Report. We like old Bleacher Report where they just let anybody be a reporter. Could you give me some details there, Hayden, before we amplify you?
I don't think that's true. Because Christian McCaffrey walked up to the podium and talked to everybody. So when
he wouldn't have done that in a boot.
No, because Christian McCaffrey on Jordan Mason said that I call him Mariano Rivera.
Yeah. Seen by who? He could just be joking. Probably some Timberlands.
Yeah, he's fine. Well, not totally, because Kyle might kill him, but he'll be in a boot eventually. What a night.
Can't believe it, John.
How long did that take you to make?
Longer than it should have. I'm not exactly a Photoshop expert.
I wouldn't even know how to even begin to make that. It's impressive, though. I give you credit.
All right. So we're going to end this believing that Christian McCaffrey did not leave in a boot and that was fake news.
Yeah, I don't think he did.
Hayden's just a liar. Just a straight up liar.
Just,
gas lamped us.
Is doing what we've always said that we would do. You just fuck with people. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. All right.
No DUIs tomorrow morning.
Yeah, everyone celebrate safe. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. Pretty legend in the making.
Is that a shot at Farhan?
Yeah, it was.
He gave $350 million to a guy who hit 26 home runs. Which I would imagine he's like, I don't want to do this. I'm getting pressured.
Well, that might have been. Yeah, ownership might have stepped in on that one. Usually,
does that feel like a Farhan move?
No, I think when you pay somebody $350 million. I mean, look, the Yankees re-signed a guy coming off one of the greatest seasons in baseball history, and it happened because he got on the phone with the owner. I think when you get into those numbers, I think it's a pretty safe bet. When you start setting those kind of numbers, it's the owner signing guys.
Easier, though, to be behind signing your own guy that you drafted, right?
Yeah.
Because didn't Brian Cashman draft Aaron Judge?
Corey, who sent us the nude photo, Says he's in Pittsburgh, PA, Pittsburgh, not Barry at Pittsburgh. He said, straight Tito's on the rocks tonight for me.
We can tell.
Because I said, bro, what if the kids come out? Because he's got if I'm not going to show the photo again. I don't want to strike, but he clearly has. There's 3 little stockings right there, and there's a little kid bouncy toy.
Guy, it's Pittsburgh. It's 2 they're well asleep.
Well, I know, but you just Dad, why are you out here naked? Well, because the Niners clinched the West. Dad, you don't look like BCB.
Well, you get to run into all your Pittsburgh Steelers friends tomorrow when they're not going to sniff the playoffs, and you'll be hosting playoff games.
Oh, they got a big game coming up with the Raiders, John.
I can't wait for that one.
All right, everybody. They said we could keep going. We could hour 3.
I'm exhausted.
All right, thanks for hanging with us, everybody. Later.